Chapter 229. Some time ago, I saw some mysterious people making some supplies in Carefree City. They seemed to be heading to Demon Wind Mountain Range. ZZ recalled. Mysterious people? What mysterious people? Zhujiansheng asked curiously. They were dressed mysteriously and were divided into different factions. There were geomancers, people from the Dajiao's sacred ground, and elites from the demon clan. Their destination seemed to be Demon Wind Mountain Range. ZZ said after some thought. What? People from the Dajiao's sacred ground? Elites from the demon clan? What kind of elites from the demon clan? The demon clan can transform into a human form. What kind of elites are you talking about? ZZ asked. Transform into a human form? Refine one's spirit? Emptiness realm? Emptiness realm demon? Zhujiansheng was shocked. The demon clan and the leader from the Dajiao sacred ground had a standoff for a while. I happened to see it. ZZ said. A standoff? Does that mean the Dajiao sacred ground sent an emptiness realm expert? Zhujiansheng frowned. By the way, Miss Z, how do you know that it was a demon clan? The great swordsman asked. I sense the demon chi. ZZ said. Ah. Everyone was puzzled. It's up to you to believe it or not. ZZ said. Of course, we believe it. Everyone nodded. By the way, when did the fusion happen? Zhujiansheng asked again. 4 months ago. It seems like something really happened at Demon Wind Mountain Range. ZZ frowned. 6th brother, go after 7th brother. Let's return to the sect and report to the sect leader. The great swordsman ordered. All right. The 6 swordsmen answered. The 6 swordsmen did not dare to shirk the responsibility. By the way, where's Yan Chuan? Zhujiansheng asked curiously. He's on the mountain. I think he's trying to break through to LV-10 power realm. ZZ looked at the mountain peak not far away. As expected, the peak of the mountain had been flattened. Yan Chuan was sitting in the middle. His body was surrounded by a golden glow. Rumble. Yan Chuan's body emitted a series of rumbling sounds. At the foot of the mountain, Lu Jin, Huo Guang, and the others were standing guard. Boom! With a loud bang, a gust of wind blew in all directions around Yan Chuan, blowing a large amount of smoke and dust into the air. Amidst the smoke and dust, the golden light around Yan Chuan seemed to have condensed into the shape of a golden dragon, revolving around Yan Chuan. Yan Chuan sat cross-legged within the golden dragon. The golden dragon glared at him, towering into the sky. Condensing energy into essence. Now that I've completed the realm of strength, I can gather the weak profound chi. ZZ's eyes lit up. 10th level of the power realm, completion of the power realm? Zhujiansheng asked with a strange expression. This was because Zhujiansheng still remembered clearly that Yan Chuan was only at level 3 of the power realm a year ago. How could he have achieved completion of the power realm now? Yan Chuan stood up. What is he doing? He just completed the strength realm. Why doesn't he try to comprehend it more? The great swordsman asked in surprise. Opening his arms. What is he doing? Going through the heavenly tribulation? No, he's really going through the heavenly tribulation. He's going through the heavenly tribulation. The 3 swordsmen were shocked. Rumble. In the sky, there was a sudden loud noise. Countless amounts of black smoke gathered. There were more and more of it, thicker and thicker. It was aimed at Yan Chuan, covering Yan Chuan's head. First heaven's heavenly tribulation. ZZ's eyes flashed with worry. Is he going through the heavenly tribulation? The king is going through the heavenly tribulation. Heavenly tribulation. It's really the heavenly tribulation. The king is going through the heavenly tribulation. The embroidered uniform army looked up at the sky. Their eyes flashed with anticipation. Oh no, the king didn't bring the Jade Emperor sword up. Lu Jin's expression suddenly changed. The Jade Emperor sword was not brought up the mountain peak. Instead, it was left at the foot of the mountain by Yan Chuan. Lu Jin was about to retrieve the sword and send it up the mountain for Yan Chuan. Eunuch Lu, you don't have to send the sword. Huo Guang stopped her. Lu Jin frowned. The king taught me that the heavenly tribulation can refine the body. When I went through the heavenly tribulation, I didn't use any weapons. The king is so smart. How could he forget about weapons? He didn't bring the Jade Emperor sword up the mountain. The king must have thought about it beforehand. Huo Guang explained. Lu Jin was slightly stunned. She thought about it and nodded. All right. The Lord is going through the heavenly tribulation at the top of the mountain. Will it be a demonstration for all of you? Huo Guang thought about it and said. Oh. It's possible. It seems possible. Lu Jin nodded. At the top of the mountain, the heavenly tribulation clouds appeared in the sky and a strong wind blew. Yan Chuan stood at the top of the mountain and looked up at the sky. His eyes flashed with coldness. His long hair and robe fluttered in the wind. Yan Chuan stretched out his arms. In his palms, there were golden lights like stars. First heaven's heavenly tribulation. Come. Yan Chuan said calmly. As he spoke, Yan Chuan's face became ferocious. Roar. Yan Chuan roared fiercely at the heavenly tribulation clouds. His eyes were fierce. His muscles were tense and veins were popping out on his face. What is Yan Chuan doing? Is he provoking the heavenly tribulation clouds? The heavenly tribulation hasn't started yet. Why is he so nervous? He can't be nervous, right? What is Yan Chuan doing? Zhu Jiansheng and the others were puzzled. Boom! A bolt of heavenly tribulation clouds rushed down. Everyone fell silent and stared at it. Roar! Yan Chuan roared again. As he roared, he opened his mouth and faced the thick bolt of heavenly tribulation lightning. Boom! The heavenly tribulation lightning struck Yan Chuan's mouth. Bang! Yan Chuan's body suddenly emitted a powerful aura, causing a large amount of soil to be overturned. Yan Chuan's hair stood up and shook crazily. The soil exploded. Everyone vaguely understood what happened. He swallowed the heavenly tribulation lightning. The three swordsmen exclaimed. Swallowed? Swallowed the heavenly tribulation lightning? Are you kidding me? The 5 swordsmen were also stunned. Can the heavenly tribulation lightning be swallowed? How is that possible? The 4 swordsmen were also stunned. Even the knowledgeable Zhou Jiansheng was petrified at this moment. Many people at LV-10 of the Power Realm might not be able to survive the heavenly tribulation even with their magical weapons. If they used their physical bodies, they would be fried on the outside and tender on the inside. However, Yan Chuan was even better. He swallowed the heavenly tribulation lightning directly. How is that possible? The great swordsman was confused. ZZ had been nervous the whole time. When she saw Yan Chuan swallowing the first heavenly tribulation lightning, she panicked at first, but when she saw that Yan Chuan was fine, she was pleasantly surprised. At the foot of the mountain, Huo Guang and Lu Jin were also looking at the sky strangely. Swallowed? Huo Guang was shocked. Huo Guang, when you were going through the heavenly tribulation, how was the first heaven tribulation? Lu Jin was confused. If I were like the king, I would have been killed. Huo Guang said with a pale face. Lu Jin. Boom. Roar. The second heavenly tribulation lightning struck. Yan Chuan roared again and swallowed the second heavenly tribulation lightning. Swallowing heavenly tribulation lightning. Chapter 230. Boom. Roar. The sound of heavenly thunder and Yan Chuan's loud roar came together. Everyone suddenly realized that the sound of heavenly thunder, which used to shake people's hearts, was nothing compared to Yan Chuan's loud roar. This roar was the real thunder of heaven and earth. With a roar, he swallowed a bolt of lightning. In the blink of an eye, Yan Chuan had already swallowed 8 bolts of lightning. That was a bolt of lightning. Zhu Jiansheng and the 5 swordsmen were still petrified. The 6 of them had never seen it before, nor had they ever heard of it before. Which vicious person dared to do this, daring to swallow heavenly lightning? That was a bolt of lightning. Once the lightning strikes you, your internal organs will explode in an instant. However, Yan Chuan in front of them had overturned everyone's understanding. He was really swallowing lightning. He was really swallowing lightning. Fierce. Too cool. I've learned something new. The group of swordsmen said in a daze. On the top of the mountain, Yan Chuan swallowed 8 bolts of lightning. A large amount of electricity flowed out from his pores. Yan Chuan's robe and long hair fluttered in the wind. Lightning surrounded him, making him look radiant. Even Yan Chuan's eyes shot out streaks of electricity. From inside to outside, the electricity spread out from Yan Chuan's body. Yan Chuan's face was still ferocious. His palms slightly formed into claws. In his palms, a large amount of electricity crackled. True dragon will, heaven swallowing poison. Yan Chuan's eyes widened. Boom! The 9th bolt of lightning struck. This time, Yan Chuan did not roar. He opened his mouth and swallowed the 9th bolt of lightning. Boom! When the 9th bolt of lightning entered his mouth, Yan Chuan's aura suddenly soared. It was several times stronger than before. The aura burst out, blasting the soil and rocks on the top of the mountain. It's over. All 9 heavenly thunders have been swallowed. Zhu Jiansheng let out a long sigh. Everyone was stunned. However, just as the 9 heavenly thunders were completed and the first stage of heavenly tribulation was over, Yan Chuan roared again. Roar! The roar this time was several times more majestic than the previous one. The powerful roar caused the mountain under his feet to shake violently. Even a large amount of lightning burst out from his pores. For a moment, Yan Chuan became like a ball of lightning, incomparably dazzling. Surrounded by lightning, Yan Chuan turned into a huge electromagnetic field. Buzz! The spears of the embroidered uniform army below all trembled intensely. Buzz! The powerful magnetic field attracted a large amount of metal. That wasn't the key point. The key point was that the magnetic field formed by the lightning was aimed at the sky. Facing the sky ferociously, Yan Chuan's roar did not stop. The magnetic field was facing the rolling black clouds in the sky. Rumble. Rumbling sounds came from the black clouds, as if they were resisting the magnetic force. The lightning in the black clouds was violently attracted by the electromagnetic field released by Yan Chuan. The powerful magnetic force pulled down the black clouds in the sky that were about to disperse. The tribulation clouds were being pulled down by the magnetic force. Roar! Yan Chuan's roar became louder and louder. The tribulation clouds were getting closer and closer to the ground. The surroundings of the mountain peak were filled with dark tribulation clouds that had been pulled down from the sky. What is he doing? The 4 swordsmen exclaimed. How can the tribulation clouds be pulled down? How can this be? The 3 swordsmen also exclaimed. Chapter 231. Within the dark tribulation clouds, there seemed to be a large amount of lightning flashing. While struggling, the clouds tried to break free from the magnetic field created by Yan Chuan's roar. Yan Chuan roared continuously, and the tribulation clouds got closer and closer to Yan Chuan. Roar! While roaring, Yan Chuan opened his mouth and faced the approaching tribulation clouds. The roar stopped and turned into gasps. Gasp! The gasps were usually very soft, but in Yan Chuan's mouth, they were loud. The experts who heard it felt their scalps tingling. Everyone could see clearly that the tribulation clouds were being sucked into Yan Chuan's mouth. The rolling tribulation clouds were huge. It was a huge tribulation cloud with a radius of 3 kilometers. It was being sucked into Yan Chuan's stomach bit by bit. Under the huge magnetic force, the tribulation clouds couldn't disperse. They disappeared bit by bit and were being sucked into Yan Chuan's mouth. The dark clouds above everyone's head became less and less. The original darkness gradually recovered, and everyone could see the sun. Correspondingly, more than half of the tribulation clouds were being sucked into Yan Chuan's mouth. Gasp! This was the most arrogant gasp that the swordsman and Zhu Jiansheng had ever heard. The huge tribulation clouds slowly entered Yan Chuan's mouth. It was like a whale swallowing water. It was very spectacular. Everyone was sure that they would never forget this scene in their lifetime. Huff! The last strand of tribulation cloud was swinging its lightning tail as it was unwillingly sucked into Yan Chuan's stomach. Yan Chuan closed his mouth, and his body emitted rumbling sounds. His pores were closed, and his body couldn't emit any more lightning. Quietly, Yan Chuan sat cross-legged again, as if he was refining the lightning and tribulation clouds in his stomach. The sky cleared up. A breeze blew across the mountain peak. Yan Chuan sat quietly in the breeze. It was a harmonious scene. However, the thousands of people around couldn't calm down as they looked at the mountain peak. Billowing waves rolled in their hearts. Motherfucker, is this a tribulation? The 3 swordsmen finally recovered and cursed. Fucking tribulation. The 4 swordsmen cursed with red eyes. Damn it. Fuck you. At this moment, the group of swordsmen could only calm down the raging waves in their hearts by cursing. Today's stimulation was too great. Not only was it exciting, but it was also a huge blow to the 6 of them. Both of them were transcending their tribulations. Why was it that when he transcended his tribulation back then, he almost died? Why was Yan Chuan so arrogant and unreasonable today? However, Zizi's eyes were filled with excitement. She clenched her fists tightly as if she was the one who had just transcended the tribulation. Huo Guang, Lu Jin, and the 3,000 embroidered uniform army soldiers were trembling with excitement. At this moment, everyone finally understood what kind of powerful person their king was. No, perhaps this wasn't all that king was capable of. However, this scene alone made everyone lose all hope of competing with him. The terrifying first heavenly lightning tribulation was swallowed by Wang Yi into his stomach. Transcending the tribulation, King was truly transcending the tribulation. Yan Chuan sat on the mountain peak for 3 days and 3 nights. During these 3 days and 3 nights, no one spoke. They just waited patiently. Zhu Jiansheng and the 5 swordsmen seemed to have realized that they had nothing to say. At the very least, they didn't want to speak before their hearts completely calmed down. Yan Chuan finished transcending the tribulation and sat alone on the mountain peak. He looked inside his body. The tribulation clouds were swallowed. Yan Chuan's true dragons will strongly suppress the tribulation clouds. Hong. Chapter 232. A loud sound came from Yan Chuan's body again, and his head shook violently. Acupoint, the first acupoint opened after passing the first heavenly lightning tribulation. Shenting acupoint. It was located 5 centimeters from the front of the head. Yan Chuan's mind was completely immersed in the Shenting acupoint. It's opened, and this Shenting acupoint is 10 times bigger than it was in my previous life. Yan Chuan was pleasantly surprised. The acupoint was a self-contained space that contained the profound qi in the body. Inner strength and qi power turned into threads of profound qi that were like golden liquid and gathered in the Shenting acupoint. It was like a golden water droplet that floated in the huge acupoint space. The golden water droplet emitted a faint golden light. This golden light was Yan Chuan's inner strength and qi power. Qi power could be absorbed into the golden water droplet, and the golden water droplet could also turn into inner strength and qi power to fill the entire body. Refining inner strength into essence was to change the quantity of inner strength into a qualitative change, forming its own unique profound qi. If one looked carefully, they would be able to see that there seemed to be a small golden dragon swimming in the golden water droplet. Originally, this was the unique behavior of an ordinary essence realm cultivator. But Yan Chuan was slightly different. In the Shinting acupoint, above the profound qi, there was a mass of dark clouds that crackled with thunder and lightning. Rumble. The dark clouds kept exploding, and threads of thunder and lightning were absorbed into Yan Chuan's body, wandering around his meridians. It was the first heavenly tribulation cloud that Yan Chuan swallowed. The rolling tribulation cloud seemed to have shrunk countless times and was trapped in Yan Chuan's Shinting acupoint. It kept emitting thunder and lightning, refining Yan Chuan's body at every moment. Looking at the tribulation cloud above the Shinting acupoint, Yan Chuan was filled with emotions. In my previous life, I used all my power to open the secret technique of the Tomb of the Immortal. Other than the life-stealing poison that allowed me to revive, this sky-swallowing poison was also mysterious. Immortal. When the Tomb Immortal was alive, he must have been an extraordinary person. Even among immortals, he must have been a top immortal. Heaven-swallowing poison, what a heaven-swallowing poison. Yan Chuan sighed. After 3 days and 3 nights, Yan Chuan slowly opened his eyes and stood up. A gentle breeze blew his long hair. Yan Chuan looked at the sky where there were no more tribulation clouds and smiled. Whoosh! Whoosh! Zhujiansheng and the 5 great swordsmen rushed to the top of the mountain. Yan Chuan, you're awake. The great swordsman exclaimed. How is it, Yan Chuan? What's your cultivation now? The 3 swordsmen swallowed his saliva and asked. Yeah, what about now? Everyone asked anxiously. He had just finished his tribulation and reached the first level of the essence realm. Why? Yan Chuan asked doubtfully. Everyone. LV1 of the profound realm? Only the first level of the elite realm? After such a huge commotion, swallowing the heavenly lightning and the tribulation cloud, he was only at the first level of the profound realm? You're lying. The 3 swordsmen lost control of their emotions and became anxious. Who would believe such a thing? Did they think they were idiots? It's indeed the first level of the profound realm. It's just that my foundation is more solid than others. Yan Chuan smiled. Everyone was speechless. How can it be? Why is it only at the first level of the profound realm? Why is it so weak? The 3 swordsmen couldn't understand. Don't we all reach the first level of the profound realm after the tribulation? Yan Chuan smiled. Everyone was confused. Was I hallucinating just now? Are you okay? Zizi's voice came from behind them. Zhujiansheng and the others' faces changed. They quickly jumped away and looked at Zizi with lingering fear. Zizi looked at Yan Chuan worriedly. I'm fine. If my foundation is solid, my cultivation will be faster in the future. Yan Chuan smiled. Okay. Zizi nodded and didn't ask any more questions. She glared at Zhujiansheng and the others. Zhujiansheng and the 5 swordsmen shivered and didn't dare to say anything more. Chapter 233. Beside the Black Dragon Pool. Yan Chuan was washing the Jade Emperor's sword with water. The Jade Emperor's sword had turned black again. Apparently, it had digested the dragon's chi essence and blood. The sword's spirituality has increased. Looks like you're really an evil sword, a bloodthirsty evil sword. Yan Chuan said with a smile. Buzz. The Jade Emperor's sword vibrated as if it was showing off. As he was washing the sword, Huo Guang walked over. King, just now, the last brother has reached the complete realm of strength. Huo Guang said excitedly. Complete realm of strength? How many people can trigger the heavenly tribulation? Yan Chuan asked as he washed the sword. Half. Then let the other half continue to eat the remaining snakes. Yan Chuan said in a low voice. Yes, but Lord, why don't you let them undergo the heavenly tribulation now? Huo Guang was confused. Go to the Dae sect. My father worked so hard to get it. Naturally, I have to give it to my subordinates. Yan Chuan sighed. Ah. Is the success rate higher in the Dae sect? Huo Guang asked in surprise. Yes. Yan Chuan nodded. Yes, this subordinate understands. Huo Guang said solemnly. How's your cultivation now? Yan Chuan looked at Huo Guang. 10 days ago, I successfully reached LV2 of the Essence Realm. Continue to eat the dragons and cultivate. Yan Chuan said in a low voice. Yes. Huo Guang replied. Not far from the Black Dragon Pool, ZZ sat at a stone table by the lake, drinking wine alone. She inadvertently glanced at Yan Chuan who was washing the sword. Her eyes revealed a sense of tranquility that had never appeared before. Another 10 days passed. Let's go. Yan Chuan shouted. Yes. The 3,000 soldiers of the embroidered uniform army replied. The army set out once again, heading straight for the Dae sect. Only a few hundred skeletons were left at the Black Dragon Pool. Dae sect. In a large hall. A white-haired and white-bearded old man stood in the hall. The old man was very tall and sturdy, and his eyes shone brightly. A group of people stood on both sides of the hall, and they were all very respectful to the old man. There were 3 managers standing on both sides, a one-armed Taoist, a cold-faced Taoist nun, and a red-faced man. Behind the red-faced man stood the 6 swordsmen and the 7 swordsmen respectfully. Feng Shao stood behind the one-armed Taoist. Sect Master. The cold-faced Taoist nun frowned. Everyone looked at the white-haired, white-bearded elder. In the Dae sect, there was only one person who could be called the sect leader. Sect leader Feng Tairan. Wu Hui, don't worry. I called the 3 peak masters here today to discuss this matter. Feng Tairan said in a low voice. The red-faced man spoke up as well. Sect leader, it's just as my 2 despicable disciples said. If the flood dragon is on the run, then something big must have happened in the Demon Wind Mountains. Furthermore, a large number of demon beasts have appeared in the vicinity of the Great River sect recently. Clearly, they have fled from the Demon Wind Mountains. Bufan, I've thought about your conjecture, but no one knows what happened in the Demon Wind Mountain range. Feng Tairan frowned. Perhaps Miss C knows. After all, she said she saw people from the Dazhao Holy Land and Demon Clan experts. The one-armed Taoist said after some thought. Her. Sigh, let's not disturb her. Feng Tairan sighed. Everyone fell silent. Father, why don't I go into the Demon Wind Mountain range to investigate? Feng Tianyu suddenly asked. Feng Tairan looked at his one-armed son and shook his head gently. No, the Demon Wind Mountain range is unusual. You can't go there. I'll go there myself in a few days. During this time, you guys take good care of the sect and don't offend anyone for the time being. Although the Dae sect isn't afraid of trouble, we're still in a sensitive period with many eyes watching us. Chapter 234. Yes. Everyone replied. By the way, I heard that the flood dragon was really killed by Yan Chuan. Feng Tairan suddenly smiled and looked at the 2 swordsmen. Old 6, you tell us. The red-faced man, Gao Bufan, looked at Lu Jianxia and said. The 6 swordsmen walked out and nodded. Sect leader, it's true. We saw it with our own eyes. It was killed by Yan Chuan and Miss C. What is Yan Chuan's cultivation now? The cold-faced Taoist nun, Mo Wuhui, asked. At the 9th level of the strength realm. Lu Jianxia said honestly. Impossible, 9th level of the strength realm. How could he kill a peak Qi Jing flood dragon? Feng Shao shouted. Shut up. The one-armed Feng Tianyu said. Father, this is obviously impossible. How could Yan Chuan kill a flood dragon? Feng Shao said jealously. Maybe it's because of Miss C. The cold-faced Taoist nun, Mo Wuhui, said. Yes. Everyone nodded. No, sect leader, martial uncles, maybe you don't know, but in the mortal world, Yan Chuan had captured 2 Qi Jing experts. The 6 swordsmen thought for a while and said. Oh. Everyone was slightly surprised. They're the 2 disciples of King Mai. The 6 swordsmen told everyone in detail what they knew. Ha 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 ha, good, Yan Tao really gave birth to a good son. Feng Tairan stroked his beard happily. He's just a little smart. Mo Wuhui said with disdain. Martial sister, isn't it good that Yan Chuan is smart? At least senior apprentice brother Yan Tao has a successor. Gao Bufan said with a smile. Mo Wuhui frowned and didn't say much, but there was a trace of disgust in her eyes. All right, Wuhui, when it's time to let it go, let it go. Feng Tairan advised. Yes. Mo Wuhui sighed. Grandpa, actually, Yan Chuan, he. Feng Shao frowned again. What's wrong? Feng Tairan asked curiously. Yan Chuan actually brought 3,000 people to the Day sect. What does he think the Day sect is? 3,000 slaves. Our Day sect only has 4,000 people, including those who went out to train. If he brings so many people with him, won't our Day sect's resources be quickly used up? Feng Shao said indignantly. Shao, don't be rash. Feng Tianyu glared. Father, I'm telling the truth. The resources of the Day sect were accumulated by all of us. We can't give them to Yan Chuan's slaves. Feng Shao argued. Oh. Then tell me, what should I do? Feng Tairan looked at Sun Zi with a smile. Grandpa, I think that Yan Chuan will only be allowed to bring 10 servants into the Day sect. The rest will be sent back. A sect is a sect. It's completely different from a mortal kingdom. Feng Shao said in a deep voice. Sent back. Feng Tairan laughed. That's right, Grandpa. Uncles, if you're too embarrassed to say it, then let me do it. I'll bring some 3rd-generation disciples and send them all back. Feng Shao volunteered. Shut up. Feng Tianyu glared. Hey. Feng Tairan stopped Feng Tianyu's scolding. Instead, he smiled at Sun Zi. All right, since that's the case, you can try. However, you have to do it in your own name. We won't interfere. How about it? Feng Tairan smiled. Ha, yes. Grandpa, don't worry. Thank you, Grandpa. Feng Shao said happily. After being humiliated by Yan Chuan last time, Feng Shao naturally wanted to get back at him now that he was in his own territory. However, his father didn't allow it. Now that his grandfather allowed it, Feng Shao was naturally excited. Chapter 235. If you want to find a 3rd-generation disciple, then go. Remember, do it in your own name. Feng Tairan smiled. Yes, grandfather, don't worry. Feng Shao said excitedly. With that, Feng Shao rushed out of the hall. Looking at his son's back, Feng Tianyu frowned. Father, Shao, doesn't know any better. Why did you indulge Shao, this? Feng Tianyu was confused. Feng Tairan shook his head. I didn't indulge him. I just want Shao, to suffer. Shao-er's growth has been too smooth, so he's a little arrogant. I need to make him suffer and wake him up to his own shortcomings. Yan Chuan, if what you said is true, Shao, Er's tricks won't be able to stop Yan Chuan. Moreover, I want to see if my grand disciple is the same as his father. Feng Tairan smiled. The 3,000 embroidered uniform army soldiers climbed through the forest at an extremely fast speed. 10 days later, they arrived at a large river. If we follow this river, we'll reach the Dae sect soon. ZZ suddenly said. That's right. It'll take at most half a day's journey. This is actually the territory of the Dae sect. Zhujiansheng smiled. Since that's the case, I should return to Carefree City. ZZ suddenly said. You're not going back with me? Yan Chuan looked at ZZ with a frown. No, I'm used to living in Carefree City. It's enough to send you here. ZZ shook her head. Yan Chuan looked at ZZ and was silent for a while. Alright, if there's anything, inform me immediately. Perhaps in a few days, I'll go to Carefree City to take a look. I'll visit you then. ZZ smiled slightly. 5 swordsmen, can I trouble you with something? Yan Chuan suddenly looked at the 5 swordsmen. Oh. What is it? The 5 swordsmen were puzzled. The Dae sect is in front of us. I don't need protection. Zhujiansheng can lead the way. I would like to invite the 5 of you to escort ZZ to Carefree City. Yan Chuan said solemnly. I don't need anyone to send me off. ZZ shook her head. That's right. Who would dare to offend her? The 3 swordsmen also felt strange. However, Yan Chuan shook his head and said, I'll have to trouble the 5 of you. Yan Chuan will remember this favor. The 5 of them looked at each other. Finally, the great swordsman said, All right. All right. The 5 of them nodded. Although he was afraid of ZZ, it was fine as long as he stayed 20 feet away from ZZ. I really don't need it. ZZ said again. I don't feel at ease leaving you alone. Yan Chuan rejected ZZ's excuse. After a moment of silence, ZZ softly said, Oh. She didn't say anything else. Beside the river, Yan Chuan watched ZZ leave. Alright, let's go. Zhujiansheng looked at Yan Chuan and smiled. Yan Chuan smiled and said, Zhujiansheng, I've troubled you these days. Don't mention it. Zhujiansheng immediately smiled. The army has been gone for a few days. I want to rest here for a day. We'll continue our journey tomorrow morning. Yan Chuan said. Ah. Why? If we speed up, we'll be there before dark. Zhujiansheng was puzzled. No, I have my own plans. At the same time, there's something I need your help with. Yan Chuan said with a smile. Oh. Zhujiansheng was puzzled. Go back to the Dae sect first and inform Feng Tairan. Help me pass a message to him. Yan Chuan's expression gradually became serious. Inform the sect leader. Zhujiansheng frowned and looked at Yan Chuan. This was because Yan Chuan's tone did not have a trace of respect for the sect leader. Tell him that I'll arrive at the Dae sect at noon tomorrow. Ask Feng Tairan, Mo Wuhui, Gao Bufan, and Feng Tianyu to come out and receive me. Yan Chuan said in a low voice. Ah. 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 Zhujiansheng looked at Yan Chuan in shock. The sect leader and the 3 peak masters? Come out and receive you. Such a big show. Are you kidding me? How is this possible? Who do you think you are? Just pass my message. Yan Chuan shook his head and did not explain. Zhujiansheng looked at Yan Chuan in confusion. Obviously, he did not believe that the sect leader and the 3 peak masters would specially come out to receive him. However, since Yan Chuan had spoken, Zhujiansheng felt that there must be something fishy going on. Alright, I'll pass your message. Zhujiansheng nodded. Chapter 236. Early the next morning. 3,000 members of the embroidered uniform army were on standby. Lu Jin took out a dragon throne from her spatial scroll. The dragon throne was fixed on a round platform. The platform was guarded by some people who could be carried by 16 members of the embroidered uniform army. My king, aren't we being too arrogant by going to the Dae sect like this? Lu Jin asked worriedly. Yan Chuan shook his head gently. Don't worry. The Dae sect owes me this. It's not too much to do this. On the contrary, if we don't do this, we will be looked down upon. Yes. Lu Jin said no more. Yan Chuan stepped onto the round platform, swung his robe, and sat on the dragon throne. Rise! Lu Jin shouted. Immediately, 16 members of the embroidered uniform army lifted the dragon platform. Let's go! Huo Guang shouted. Yes! 3,000 members of the embroidered uniform army followed the river to the north. Yan Chuan sat on the dragon platform and was carried in the middle of the embroidered uniform army. Yan Chuan leaned on the dragon throne and held his chin with his hand. His eyes were slightly dignified. The army slowly moved forward. 4 hours later, they saw the Dae sect from afar. The Dae sect was a mountain range. It was so big that they couldn't see the end of it. Clouds and mist filled the air, just like the deep mountains and ancient forests that they had come from. The only difference was that the sky was filled with bright yellow clouds. The yellow cloud was about 10 miles in radius, floating high in the sky. From the cloud, a yellow light shone down, enveloping a huge mountain down below. This was the main peak of the Dae sect. Other than this main peak, there were 4 tallest mountains in 4 directions. Obviously, they were the sky, earth, Xian, and yellow peaks of the Dae sect. The yellow clouds shone like a miracle. Huo Guang, Lu Jin, and the others looked forward to it. My king, what are those yellow clouds? What are those yellow clouds? Lu Jin exclaimed. Yan Chuan looked at the yellow cloud and said indifferently, the Dae sect's pond of merit. What pool? What are you talking about, Your Majesty? Lu Jin didn't understand. That's not a yellow cloud, that's the pool of merit. The power bestowed by the heavens can absorb the merits of heaven and earth and bless the Dae sect. It's just the accumulation of the merits accumulated by the Dae sect over the years. Yan Chuan said lightly. Merit pool? Are those all the legendary virtues that can't be seen? Then, what was the meaning of king and heavenly bestowed power? Could it be that gathering heaven and earth merit requires the permission of the heavens? Lu Jin was puzzled. That's right. Without the permission of the heavens, no matter how big, how strong, or how many people a sect has, it's still a mediocre sect. That's because they don't have the protection of the heavens and earth, they only have the permission of the heavens. Just like the Dae sect, it shouldn't have been long ago. Even if it's a mediocre sect, it's still a mediocre sect. Yan Chuan said in a low voice. Mediocre sect? Lu Jin was puzzled. The sects in the world should be divided into 3 types, mediocre, superior, and mediocre. With the merits of the Dae sect, it's at most a mediocre sect. The strongest are the superior sects, such as the Sacred Ground and the Dazhao Sacred Ground. The Dazhao Sacred Ground is a superior sect. Yan Chuan introduced. Ah. How do we evaluate it? Lu Jin was confused. There's no need for you or me to evaluate it. The heavens will evaluate it. The heavens have their own standards. Yan Chuan took a deep breath and said. Oh. Lu Jin was puzzled. Clearly, she didn't understand it completely. You'll understand in the future. Yan Chuan smiled. Then, Your Majesty, how do we obtain the authorization of the heavens? How does the heavens authorize it? Huo Guang asked curiously. Chapter 237. Have you heard of the Heavenly Bestowment Conference? Yan Chuan asked. Yes, I have. Mr. Monroe and Zhujian Sheng mentioned that the old emperor shone brightly at the Heavenly Bestowment Conference. Huo Guang said doubtfully. The Heavenly Bestowment Conference should be a grand event authorized by the heavens. And from what Wen Ruo and Zhujian Sheng said, it should be my father who fought for this authorization. The Dai sect was forced to become a lower sect because of my father, Yen Tao. Yen Chuan said with a gloomy expression. The old emperor. Lu Jin's eyes flashed with surprise. Now you know why I have to be so high profile. Yen Chuan said with a smile. This is the foundation of the old emperor, so it's natural for the king to be high profile. But the old emperor is no longer here, and the other people in the Dai sect may not be loyal to the king. Aren't you afraid that the king's high profile will cause disgust among the inner disciples? After all, we still have to enter the Dai sect. Huo Guang said in confusion. Yen Chuan shook his head gently. You still don't understand. Think about it again. Now that we have entered the Dai sect and settled down, you will tell me why I have to be so high profile. Yen Chuan said lightly. Yes. I will do my best to not disappoint the king. Huo Guang said with a serious expression. Let's continue. After that, Yen Chuan said no more. The army slowly moved toward the Dai sect. Dai sect, the main peak under the illumination of the Pool of Merit. Halfway up the main peak was a huge palace. The Great River Hall. The Great River Hall was the main hall of the Dai sect, where the sect leader discussed matters. Several figures stood on a high platform in front of the Great River Hall. The 6 swordsmen, the 7 swordsmen, and Zhujian Sheng stood respectfully at the back. The leader of the Dai sect, Feng Tairan, was at the front. Behind Feng Tairan were Earth Peak Lord Mo Wu Hui, Black Peak Lord Feng Tianyu, and Yellow Peak Lord Gao Bufan. The 7 of them stood on the high platform and looked at the distance south of the Dai sect, where the embroidered uniform army was slowly approaching. Sect Master, that's what Yen Chuan said. He asked the sect master and the 3 peak masters to go down the mountain to welcome him. Zhujian Sheng said, his face twitching. Not only Zhujian Sheng, even the 6 and 7 swordsmen looked at each other in dismay. This Yen Chuan really thought too highly of himself. The sect leader and the peak masters of the 3 peaks were welcomingly moved with the grandest ceremony on behalf of the entire Dai sect. It seemed that when people from the upper sects came, they didn't need to use this kind of etiquette. Ignorant brat, arrogant. Mo Wu Hui glared at him. Feng Tianyu and Gao Bufan also frowned. Feng Tairan revealed a strange smile and said, interesting. It's only been 8 years, but his mind has matured to this extent. Father. Feng Tianyu looked at Feng Tairan doubtfully. Feng Tairan shook his head gently and said, let's wait and see. Yes. The 3 peak masters nodded at the same time. The leaders of the Dai sect looked at the 3,000 troops slowly approaching from afar. Inside the Dai sect, there were mountains everywhere. Did you know? Yen Chuan is back today. The son of the previous sect master. That little bastard is back. Not only is he back, I heard that he brought 3,000 slaves with him. 3,000? What a joke, he's crazy. 3,000 people entering the Dai sect. Did the sect master allow this? They're about to enter the sect. I heard that Feng Shao of the Black Peak brought a group of people to stop them. What? Feng Shao. The grandson of the sect master. Let's go and take a look. Chapter 238. It was the busiest day of the Dai sect. The news of Yen Chuan's imminent arrival spread like wildfire. A large number of Dai sect disciples rushed to watch the arrival of the army. Black Peak, in a palace halfway up the mountain. A black-robed man stood quietly on a stone platform with a thin sword hanging from his waist. The black-robed man held the thin sword with one hand and looked solemnly outside the Dai sect, looking at the smoke and dust stirred up by the army of 3,000 in the distance. Eldest senior brother. Two men came from behind the black-robed man. The eldest senior brother was the one who was put down by Yan Chuan with Feng Shao, Jiang Nan. The two men behind Jiang Nan were also poisoned by Yan Chuan that day. Eldest senior brother, Yan Chuan is about to enter the sect. Previously, Feng Shao, Martial Uncle Feng Shao invited us to stop him. We didn't go. One of them said. It's best that you didn't go. Jiang Nan said lightly. Eldest senior brother, are we just going to let go of the humiliation of that day? The man frowned. The sect leader won't refuse Yan Chuan. Even if Feng Shao stops Yan Chuan, the sect leader will let him in. If we go now, we'll only make a fool of ourselves. We'll talk about the humiliation of the past in the future. Jiang Nan said in a low voice. Yes, we'll listen to eldest senior brother. The two men nodded. The three of them were silent for a while, quietly looking outside the mountain gate in the distance. Sitting lazily on the dragon platform, Yan Chuan held his chin and looked at the approaching Day Sect's mountain gate. At the mountain gate, there was a huge stone tablet with the words, Day Sect, written forcefully on it. There was a faint fog all around, but it was already noon. The fog could only mean one thing. The Day Sect had a protective mountain array that hadn't been activated yet. Vaguely, Yan Chuan could see that the inside of the Day Sect was crowded with people. Obviously, many people were paying attention to his group. At this moment, there were 200 cultivators at the entrance of the mountain. All of them were ready to fight, and their expressions were filled with hostility. Among them, there were 10 that Yan Chuan recognized. They were the people who had been killed by Yan Chuan's poisonous smoke back then. Their leader was the grandson of the sect master, Feng Shao, whose trachea was choked by a grape. Yan Chuan's lips curled into a faint smile. Stop right there. Feng Shao suddenly shouted. Holding a sword, Feng Shao stepped in front of the 200 cultivators and coldly stared at Yan Chuan, who was on the dragon platform. The army paused, and Yan Chuan looked at Feng Shao. What? Didn't you hear Zhu Jiansheng's words? Did the Day Sect only send you to welcome me? Yan Chuan asked indifferently. Bah! I welcome you. In your dreams. Feng Shao berated. Since you're not, then don't block the way. Yan Chuan said indifferently. Block the way. So what if we block your way? Yan Chuan, listen to me. Grandfather will let you enter the Day Sect out of pity. Don't be ungrateful. Feng Shao shouted. Oh. How did I not know what's good for me? Yan Chuan said indifferently. What's the meaning of bringing so many people? You listen to me. I'll allow you to bring at most 3 slaves into the Day Sect. The rest of you, scram. Feng Shao shouted. Is this Feng Tyrant's idea? Yan Chuan asked in a deep voice. No, it's my idea. Feng Shao immediately shouted. So, the Day Sect's sect master has changed again? You, Feng Shao, are the new sect master. Yan Chuan smiled. You. Yan Chuan, as long as I'm here today, you can forget about entering the Day Sect. Feng Shao said anxiously. Yan Chuan looked at the peaks of the Day Sect surrounded by clouds and smiled. Hua Guang. Yan Chuan said indifferently. Here. The First Legion will open the way. Kill anyone who dares to block the way. Yan Chuan shouted. Yes. Kill anyone who dares to block the way. Feng Shao's face twitched. Chapter 239. Hua Guang. Yan Chuan said indifferently. Present. The First Legion will lead the way. Anyone who dares to block the way will be killed. Yan Chuan shouted. Yes. Anyone who dared to block the road would be killed. Feng Shao's face twitched. Square formation. Hua Guang shouted. Roar. The army of 3,000 immediately formed a military formation, protecting Yan Chuan in the center as the army marched forward. Boom! 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 Their neat footsteps revealed the ferocity of the battlefield. Stop right there! Feng Shao shouted. Huo Guang's eyes widened as he shouted, target, 100 feet ahead. Ka 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 ka. At the front of the phalanx, 600 shooting sun arrows were loaded. Their target was Feng Shao's group. The faces of the Dai sect disciples suddenly changed. Xing! 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 They quickly pulled out their swords and magic treasures and stared at the group of cultivators before them in shock. Mortal! Had these mortals gone mad? How dare you attack us? Courting death. Humph, what an idiot. Everyone's expression was unsightly. Release. Huo Guang ordered. Bam! 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 The 600 shooting sun arrows immediately turned into 600 streams of light and shot towards the 200 Dai sect disciples. Ah! Bastard! Everyone's expression changed. Boom! Some people quickly jumped away, while others used their magic treasures to block the incoming swords. Boom! The small hill where Feng Shao was originally located was completely destroyed by the 600 shooting sun arrows. Out of the 200 elite realms, 4 or 5 of them were grazed by the shooting sun arrows. None of them had expected that this group of mortals would dare to attack them in their own territory. You're courting death. A Xiuzhe quickly raised a large blade and charged towards the army from the side. Release. Boom. 10 of the embroidered uniformed soldiers stared at the Xiuzhe and quickly released 5 shooting sun arrows. Boom. The Xiuzhe was knocked away by the power of the shooting sun arrow, but it was not over yet. There were 10 people staring at him, but only 5 arrows were shot. The other 5 had not shot before, and only released them now. Boom! 5 streaks of flowing light shot over. The Xiuzhe had used up all his strength, and before he could form a new one, he instantly showed a terrified expression. Dang dang dang! 3 Xiuzhe quickly rushed over to help him block the 5 fatal streaks of light. Crack! Crack! However, with the participation of these 3 people, the embroidered army spontaneously aimed another 30 sun shooting bows at them. Bam! 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 Under the suppression of the rain of arrows, the group of Xiuzhe immediately became disheveled. When the battle started, almost all of the 200 Xiuzhe charged forward. No one expected Yan Chuan to make a move, and even more so, they didn't expect him to make a move so quickly. Moreover, this group of mortals actually had a cultivator's magical treasure, and could suppress a dignified expert like himself. Bam! 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 The army was well trained. In the blink of an eye, they divided up the work. One squad leader kept an eye on one Xiuzhe, and the 200 Xiuzhe were suppressed in the blink of an eye. The group of Xiuzhe fled in all directions. However, before the shooting sun arrows, they could not hide. They jumped up and down, as if they were sent flying by a group of mortals. Amidst the billowing dust, the cries of Xiuzhe and the figures sent flying could be heard everywhere. The scene was very disharmonious. Inside the Dai sect, countless pairs of eyes showed confusion. Mortals. These are mortals. Chapter 240. Am I seeing things? Those elite realms of the Black Peak were bullied by a group of mortals. On the Black Peak, Jiang Nan grabbed his sword hilt, his eyes gloomy. Eldest senior brother is wise. If we had agreed with Feng Shao, we would be the ones losing face now. Someone behind him said. Yeah, how did this group of mortals improve their fighting strength so quickly? Yan Chuan. Jiang Nan squinted his eyes, his tone extremely heavy. On the square in front of the Great River Hall, Sect leader Feng Tairan led a group of people and looked down. Sect leader, As I said earlier, this group of mortals is extremely strong. Last time, the 200 demon snakes were killed by them. Zhu Jiansheng said worriedly. Too arrogant, Yan Chuan is too arrogant. Mo Wuhui said coldly. Feng Tairan shook his head gently and said, no. Well done. Ah. Zhu Jiansheng and the rest were confused. Feng Tairan stroked his white beard and smiled, he has Yan Tao's style. But sect leader, I am worried that the disciples are not a match for the Jin army. What if? Zhu Jiansheng said worriedly. Yan Chuan did not kill them. Don't worry. Feng Tairan said with a smile. But, he said to kill. Zhu Jiansheng still did not understand. He said to kill, but there was a precondition. Anyone who dares to block the path, kill. The precondition was to block Yan Chuan's path. These third-generation disciples attacked from both sides, so the Jin army left them a way out. Feng Tairan said with a smile. Ah. Zhu Jiansheng said in surprise. With such a disciple, Yan Tao can smile in the underworld. Feng Tairan suddenly sighed. Sect leader, your evaluation of Yan Chuan is too high. Can he be compared to Yan Tao? Mo Wuhui frowned. Didn't you notice? From the beginning to the end, Yan Chuan's eyelids did not even twitch. Feng Tairan said with a smile. Oh. Everyone looked over again. In the distance, cultivators flew into the air, kicking up dust and smoke from the battlefield. 2,000 embroidered uniform army soldiers suppressed the cultivators. 1,000 embroidered uniform army soldiers protected Yan Chuan as they continued their journey to the Dai sect. Yan Chuan sat on the dragon platform. He continued to lazily rest his chin on his hand, allowing the dragon platform to steadily move towards the interior of the Dai sect. Hu Guang led the way. There was only one person standing in Hu Guang's way, Feng Shao. Feng Shao still felt like his head was stuck. How could that be? How could Yan Chuan dare to make a move? How dare he? Feng Shao said with an ugly expression. Ta. As the army drew closer, Feng Shao's expression turned increasingly ugly as he listened to the screams of his martial nephews. Martial uncle, save me! Someone cried out. Martial uncle! As the cultivators shouted, Feng Shao also felt very anxious. He wanted to stop this chaotic battle, but he realized how powerless he was. Yan Chuan, stop! Stop! Feng Shao roared. Naturally, Yan Chuan would not listen to him. The army ignored him even more. They slowly advanced, getting closer and closer. Martial uncle! The shouts all around made Feng Shao's immature mind unable to bear it. Capture the ringleader first. Yes. I will control Yan Chuan. This group of mortals will not dare to make a move. Feng Shao's eyes suddenly lit up. Xing! Feng Shao swung his sword and charged towards Yan Chuan, who was in the middle of the army. How dare you! Hu Guang stepped forward. Feng Shao did not care about Hu Guang's advance. He was just a mortal. What could a mortal do to him? Great river chop! Feng Shao glared. The sword in his hand immediately drew a bright sword beam. Chapter 241. Army Destroyer. Hu Guang shouted. Boom! Hu Guang's silver aura suddenly expanded. A violent aura shot out. The ferocious army destroyer willpower directly hit Feng Shao's willpower. Wang! Feng Shao seemed to see a mountain of corpses and a sea of blood. The illusion of countless corpses suddenly appeared, and Feng Shao's expression changed. Dang! The two weapons collided. In one exchange, Feng Shao was sent flying by Hu Guang. Boom! Feng Shao crashed into a huge rock. The huge rock shattered. Feng Shao couldn't get up under this attack. He spat out a mouthful of blood. Puff! Feng Shao's eyes were filled with disbelief. Immortal? He was beaten up like this by Immortal. This blow was too big. It wasn't just a physical blow. It was more of a mental blow. He was defeated by Immortal. Was he really a good-for-nothing? Feng Shao, who was mentally hurt, glanced at Yan Chuan, who was on the dragon platform. He happened to see Yan Chuan's gaze. Yan Chuan looked at Feng Shao and revealed a faint smile. However, in Feng Shao's eyes, this smile was like a slap to his face. His previous glamour had been beaten to a pulp. When he was young, he was bullied by Yan Chuan. A year ago, he was bullied by Yan Chuan. Now, he was bullied by Yan Chuan. Was he really so useless? Feng Shao burst into tears as he felt wronged. Yan Chuan smiled faintly. He didn't mock or look down on Feng Shao, he just found it interesting. Although Feng Shao was a dandy, arrogant, and immature, at the very least he wasn't too shrewd. At the very least, he lived a very realistic life. Of course, it was just a smile. The army continued to advance into the Dae sect. Yan Chuan turned his gaze to the main peak again. The fighting around them gradually stopped. More than 200 elite realm warriors were in a sorry state. They were injured and lying on the ground. Looking at the embroidered army gradually entering the Dae sect, they all had complicated expressions. After this wave of attacks, there were no more obstacles. Even when they arrived at the mountain gate, there was only a group of onlookers. No one stepped forward to stop them. Tap, 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 the army marched into the interior of the Dae sect in an orderly fashion. They followed the main road and headed toward the main peak. More and more disciples gathered around. The embroidered uniform army continued to do as they pleased. Not long after, the army arrived at the foot of the main peak. Stop! Huo Guang ordered. At the foot of the main peak, the group of mountain guards revealed confused expressions, not knowing what to do. Yan Chuan sat on the dragon platform and looked up at the mountain peak. Your Majesty, do you want to go up the mountain? Huo Guang asked. Yan Chuan coldly looked at the mountain and shook his head. No need. Prepare the troops and wait. Understood. Huo Guang replied. The army slowly stood behind the dragon platform. Yan Chuan sat on the dragon platform and waited quietly. On the main peak, in front of the great river hall. Feng Tianyu's expression was complicated. His son actually lost to the man with the spear in a single exchange? Father. Shao, he. Feng Tianyu said with an ugly expression. Life has to go through stages. After today, Shao, will definitely understand. Don't worry. This is for his own good. Don't spoil him too much. Feng Tairan shook his head. Sect Master, Yan Chuan stopped at the foot of the mountain. What should we do now? Gao Bufan asked doubtfully. He is still sitting on the dragon platform. How arrogant. Mo Wuhue said unhappily. Sect Master, why don't I go down and bring Yan Chuan up? Zhu Jiansheng asked kindly. He hoped to ease Yan Chuan's awkward attitude. No need. Since he is already here, the few of us will go down to welcome him. Feng Tairan said with a smile. Ah. Zhu Jiansheng looked at Feng Tairan in surprise. Go down together. Are we really going to welcome him together? Chapter 242. Yan Chuan sat lazily on the dragon platform, allowing the Dae sect disciples to point at him. He continued to stare coldly at the main peak. The surroundings gradually quieted down. Feng Shao walked into the Dae sect with his injuries. Jiang Nan also walked down from the Black Peak. The Qi and Essence State disciples of the Dae sect gradually surrounded Yan Chuan's army. Their expressions were complicated. Yan Chuan. It was a name that made everyone confused. The son of the previous sect master would return one day, but no one expected him to return so arrogantly. Was he trying to join the Dae sect? Everyone was confused. They had never seen such an arrogant disciple. It was as if the Dae sect wanted to worship him. While the Dae sect disciples were confused, a white cloud slowly descended from the main peak. Is that the sect master? Ah. The three peak masters. Why are they here together? Looks like Yen Chuan is in trouble. Yeah, I wonder how the sect master will teach this kid a lesson. All the disciples of the Great River sect stared at him curiously. Feng Shao clutched his chest that was injured by Hu Guang. His expression was gloomy. Jiang Nan squinted his eyes. Feng Tairan led the crowd and slowly descended. Yen Chuan ignored the others. He stared at the white cloud and the crowd on it. When Yen Chuan saw that everyone had landed, the graveness that he had been hiding in his eyes slowly disappeared. Phew! The white cloud dispersed and the crowd landed in front of the embroidered uniform army. Greetings, sect master. Greetings, peak masters. Greetings, sect master. The Dae sect disciples greeted respectfully. Yen Chuan waved his hand gently. Lu Jin nodded and quickly ordered the embroidered uniform army to lower the dragon platform. When the dragon platform landed, Yen Chuan stood up gently. With the Jade Emperor sword on his back, he slowly walked forward. The embroidered uniform guards opened up a path for Yen Chuan. The breeze gently blew Yen Chuan's long robe. Yen Chuan's expression gradually turned serious as he walked towards Feng Tairan. Feng Tairan also stared at Yen Chuan. Yen Chuan slowly walked closer before stopping. Feng Tairan. Yen Chuan said in a deep voice. Audacious. Is the name of the sect master something you can call? Mo Wu Hui glared at him. Yen Chuan, sect master is your father's master. You should call him Grandmaster. Gao Bufan said with a smile. Grandmaster? Yen Chuan shook his head and sneered. Yen Chuan's tone was full of sarcasm, so much so that all the Dae sect disciples around him could hear it. Everyone glared at Yen Chuan. Do you think I'm not qualified? Feng Tairan frowned. My father, the former sect master of the Dae sect, was forced to die in front of everyone. What are you doing, Feng Tairan? What are the people of the Dae sect doing? He was the sect master, a sect master. How could you just watch him be forced to die? Do you think you can be my grandmaster? Yen Chuan shook his head. Yen Tao asked for it. He. Mo Wu Hui shouted. Wu Hui. Feng Tairan interrupted Mo Wu Hui's words. Sect master. Mo Wu Hui frowned. Yen Chuan is right. A sect master was forced to die, and his disciple was forced to die in front of me. I am indeed not qualified to be Yen Tao's master. This is the weakness of the Dae sect. Feng Tairan shook his head. Yen Chuan stared at Feng Tairan. He took a deep breath, but his face was inexplicably relaxed. You didn't have to wait for my father's death, but you were responsible for it. Although I wasn't there, I can guess why my father was forced to die in the Dae sect, and not somewhere else. To be able to force my father to die, and make the entire Dae sect helpless, it must be a strong person that the Dae sect cannot provoke. My father protected the Dae sect with his life. This shows that my father loved the Dae sect, and he must have respected you. Yen Chuan said in a deep voice. Chapter 243. Everyone was silent for a while. My father respects you, and you don't have to break your master-disciple relationship because of me. However, from my point of view, even though you are my father's master, I will not recognize you as my ancestor. You are you, and I am me. I came to the Dae sect only to inherit what my father left behind. Yen Chuan said in a deep voice. Hearing Yen Chuan's words, Feng Tairan's eyes flashed with a trace of surprise. Ha, if Yen Tao knew in the underworld, he would definitely be pleased with you. Feng Tairan laughed. Everyone was at a loss, unable to understand Feng Tairan's mentality. Yen Chuan scolded you, and you actually laughed. So happy. Of course, I came today to inherit Heaven Peak, become the Peak Master of Heaven Peak, and take back my father's things. Yen Chuan laughed. Yen Chuan's laughter also stunned many cultivators. They also couldn't understand Yen Chuan. Just a moment ago, he had a deep hatred, but in the blink of an eye, he laughed. What did he mean? Only Feng Tairan's eyes flickered as he looked solemnly at Yen Chuan, as if he was looking at a treasure. Are you sure you want to inherit Heaven Peak? Feng Tairan confirmed again. Isn't this what you want? Yen Chuan laughed. Feng Tairan let out a long sigh. At this moment, he was sure that Yen Chuan had accepted the Dahe sect because of his father's love for the sect. There was no resistance. The inheritance of a sect not only required experts, but also disciples who accepted the sect. Otherwise, once a disaster struck, they would all go their separate ways. Rather than accepting 10 geniuses with uncertain temperament, it was better to accept one mediocre person who was loyal to the sect. At least, the sect could be passed down in any storm. Welcome back. Feng Tairan laughed. Your calmness made me understand that my father's death back then wasn't in vain. Yen Chuan let out a long sigh and laughed. Ha 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 ha. Feng Tairan laughed. But Yen Chuan could hear the bitterness in Feng Tairan's laughter. Many people did not understand the conversation between the two of them. They even felt that it was ridiculous. Feng Xiao and Jiang Nan both opened their mouths in shock. The two of them asked and answered, why did it sound so inexplicable? Take out the Tian Su and name me now. Yen Chuan said indifferently. All right. Feng Tairan replied. Sect Master. Mo Wu Hui immediately called out. Eh. Feng Tairan looked at Mo Wu Hui in confusion. Are you really going to let him be the Peak Master of Heaven Peak? What qualifications does he have? Mo Wu Hui cried out. Is it because he is Yen Chuan's son? Mo Wu Hui asked in a low voice. That's not all. Feng Tairan shook his head. Oh. Mo Wu Hui was puzzled. He is qualified to do so. Feng Tairan laughed. What qualifications? Mo Wu Hui still didn't understand. Just like back then, why did I pass the position to Yen Tao? My foresight has never been wrong. Wu Hui, don't object. Feng Tairan laughed. Mo Wu Hui's eyes narrowed. Not only Mo Wu Hui, but Gao Bufan and Feng Tianyu also looked at Yen Chuan in surprise. Yes. Mo Wu Hui nodded. But this scene, in the eyes of the group of second-generation disciples, was so inconceivable. Zhu Jiansheng said that Yen Chuan could be the Peak Master, but that was only in theory. There had never been a Peak Master of the Essence Realm. In the crowd, Jiang Nan's face was ugly, and Feng Xiao's face was complicated. But the Sect Master and the 3 Peak Masters had agreed, and there was no way to refute. Feng Tairan stretched out his hand, and a 10 feet long yellow scroll suddenly appeared in the void. Rumble. The pool of merit in the sky suddenly churned, as if it was responding to the scroll. Chapter 244. On the back of the scroll, there were the words Tian Su. The 2 words were faintly discernible, and upon closer inspection, they seemed to be moving slowly. On the front, there were 5 columns of text. Except for the first column, there was a blood-red fingerprint at the end of each column. Dahe Sect, bestowed by the heavens. Sect Leader, Feng Tairan. Earth Peak Lord, Mo Wu Hui. Black Peak Lord, Feng Tianyu. Yellow Peak Lord, Gao Bufan. This was the Tian Su. The Tian Su floated in the air. Feng Tairan stretched out his hand and waved at the Tian Su. Above the Tian Su, a line of small words suddenly appeared slowly. Heaven Peak Lord, Yan Chuan. A line of words appeared. Feng Tairan's forehead broke out in cold sweat, and said with some difficulty, "You do it." Yan Chuan nodded, his finger slightly drew a line, and a trace of essence blood appeared on his fingertip. With his fingertip, he pressed below his name. Boom! The pool of merit in the sky exploded, and then, a dazzling yellow light fell from the sky and went straight into Yan Chuan's body. Yan Chuan closed his eyes and suddenly inhaled deeply, as if he was accepting the yellow light. Feng Tairan smiled, waved his hand, and the Tian Su suddenly disappeared, as if it had never been there. It was not until 10 breaths later that Yan Chuan suddenly opened his eyes. How is it? Feng Tairan smiled. Merit into the body, washing away the negative karma. Yan Chuan smiled. Feng Tairan nodded. Yan Chuan stretched out his hand, and a yellow ball of light slowly appeared in his palm. He turned his head to look at the 3,000 embroidered army soldiers. He stretched out his hand. Bang! The yellow light suddenly enlarged, like a handful of sand fog, enveloping the 3,000 embroidered army soldiers. The 3,000 embroidered army soldiers suddenly trembled. King! Why did my heart palpitate just now? Huo Guang asked in amazement. From now on, through me, you are connected to the pool of merit. Yan Chuan smiled. Connected to the pool of merit? Huo Guang was puzzled. That's right. Although you can't wash away most of your negative karma like me, at least you have a much higher chance of success in the sect than in the outside world. Because this pool of merit will protect you. Yan Chuan said with a smile. Yes. Huo Guang didn't understand, but he knew it wasn't the time to ask. Do you need me to guide you to the heavenly peak? Feng Tairan asked. There's no need for that. Zhijian Sheng can lead the way for me. Once I've settled down, I'll come find you. Yan Chuan shook his head. All right. Feng Tairan nodded. With that, Feng Tairan waved his sleeve, and another white cloud floated up, carrying him and the 3 peak masters up the mountain. Many disciples of the Deh sect looked confused, including Zhijian Sheng, the 6 swordsmen, and the 7 swordsmen. Yan Chuan watched the 4 of them go up the mountain, and said to Huo Guang, "Do you understand what I asked you to think about earlier?" Huo Guang's expression changed, and he immediately said solemnly, "Yes, I understand." Oh. Tell me. Yan Chuan looked at Huo Guang. King's high profile was actually to test sect leader Feng Tairan, to see if the Deh sect was worth the old emperor's sacrifice. The conversation between King and sect leader Feng Tairan just now was actually a mutual test between King and Feng Tairan. In the end, King approved of the Deh sect and stayed. Huo Guang thought and said. That's right. Although the Deh sect is a lesser sect, it's still nothing in my eyes. Yan Chuan said indifferently. King, I'm curious. If Feng Tairan didn't satisfy King just now, what would King do? Huo Guang asked curiously. Didn't satisfy me? Yan Chuan narrowed his eyes, and a cold glint flashed in his eyes. Although Yan Chuan didn't say it out loud, Huo Guang had followed Yan Chuan for so long that he naturally understood the meaning in his eyes. If the Deh sect wasn't worth Yan Tao's sacrifice, would King destroy the Deh sect? Destroy the Deh sect? Huo Guang's heart was in turmoil. Chapter 245. While Yan Chuan and Huo Guang were whispering, Zhijian Sheng and the rest walked over. Zhijian Sheng, the 6 swordsmen, and the 7 swordsmen all had strange expressions on their faces. Greetings, Peak Lord of Heavenly Peak. The 3 of them said. Thank you for taking care of me all this time. If you need anything in the future, feel free to look for me. Yan Chuan said with a smile. The 3 of them were slightly stunned. At the same time, Zhu Jiansheng suddenly understood why Yan Chuan did not address him as senior brother. It turned out that he was waiting for this. Junior brother. I will try my best to refine qi into spirit. Zhu Jiansheng said sullenly. I'll be waiting. Yan Chuan said with a smile. Let's go. I'll bring you to Heavenly Peak. Although no one has lived here for 7 years, it is still cleaned frequently. Zhu Jiansheng led the way. Wait. Suddenly, a shout came from the crowd. Eh. Everyone turned their heads to look. A black-robed man slowly walked out from the crowd. It was the third-generation senior brother, Jiang Nan. Jiang Nan held the hilt of his sword and frowned. He looked at Yan Chuan with a complicated expression. The humiliation of the past was still vivid in his mind. Sprout? He said he was a sprout. After returning to the sect, he cultivated day and night just to wash away the humiliation of the past. Finally, he reached the complete realm of essence and Yan Chuan came to the sect. However, in the blink of an eye, Yan Chuan became a first-generation disciple. How could he take revenge? The moment Feng Tairan agreed, Jiang Nan almost roared. Jiang Nan. What do you want? Zhu Jiansheng said with a frown. Jiang Nan was a genius. Zhu Jiansheng also knew that he would become his junior brother soon. Zhu Jiansheng did not put on airs. I, Jiang Nan, as the third-generation senior disciple, challenge the Peak Lord of Heavenly Peak. Please enlighten me. Jiang Nan said solemnly. Hua. Jiang Nan's words caused an uproar. Challenge? Eldest senior brother wants to challenge Yan Chuan. Did I hear it wrong? Eldest senior brother is in the perfection of the essence state. Challenge Yan Chuan. Isn't this obvious bullying? But eldest senior brother is only a third-generation disciple. Challenging a first-generation disciple is against the rules. Who wants Yan Chuan to be so arrogant? Eldest senior brother wants to suppress his arrogance. The challenge is right. Everyone was talking about it. Jiang Nan, pay attention to your status. You are at the peak of the essence realm, and Peak Master Tian has just joined the sect. Zhu Jiansheng said in a deep voice. That's right. Your cultivation base is much higher compared to Peak Master Tian. Is this a challenge? Asked the sixth swordsman with a frown. No, strength is not something that can be measured by cultivation base. A year ago, Jiang Nan was defeated by Peak Lord Tian, Martial Uncle can testify. Today, Jiang Nan only wishes to verify the results of a year's worth of cultivation. I beg Peak Lord Tian to grant me my wish. Jiang Nan was unyielding. Ah. A year ago, eldest senior brother lost to Yan Chuan. No way. The surrounding Day sect disciples were all in disbelief. Among the third-generation disciples, Jiang Nan was the strongest. Although Yan Chuan was a first-generation disciple, he had just joined the sect. How could he defeat Jiang Nan? I beg Peak Master Tian to grant my wish. Jiang Nan said again. Zhu Jiansheng looked at Yan Chuan awkwardly. Yan Chuan smiled and said, I don't like this kind of competition. Ah. Some people around immediately looked at him with disdain. They thought that Yan Chuan was afraid. If you don't like to fight, then what is the sword on your back for? Jiang Nan was unyielding. Chapter 246. My Jade Emperor sword doesn't fight. It only kills. Doesn't fight, only kills. Everyone's face twitched. The Heavenly Peak Master was indeed arrogant. Jiang Nan was also depressed and was about to speak again. You are close to the second stage of the heavenly tribulation. Consolidate it properly. Don't cause trouble everywhere before transcending the tribulation and leave behind hidden dangers. You only have one life, cherish it. Yan Chuan shook his head and said lightly. Me? Cause trouble everywhere? Jiang Nan was furious. Oh, by the way, my heavenly peak master will also undergo the tribulation tomorrow. It might cause a big commotion. Your tribulation will come again slowly. Yan Chuan said indifferently. As he spoke, Yan Chuan no longer paid any attention to Jiang Nan, and he looked at Zhou Jiansheng and said, "Let's go." Zhou Jiansheng smiled bitterly and nodded. He led Yan Chuan's army and left. Why? Do I have to ask you for permission to undergo the tribulation? Jiang Nan said sullenly. A few of Jiang Nan's followers surrounded Yan Chuan and scolded him for a while. Feng Shao, who was not far away, had a complicated expression as he watched the army leave. He frowned and looked at Jiang Nan, who was not far away. "Martial Uncle Feng Shao, what should we do?" "Are we just going to let this go?" a disciple asked Feng Shao. "Humph, I must take revenge for the humiliation. I will teach Yan Chuan a lesson. However, I must strengthen myself. I was too arrogant in the past. When I become stronger, I will find Yan Chuan for revenge." "Humph," Feng Shao said coldly. Feng Shao did not realize that he had undergone a huge change after this battle. At the very least, he was more ambitious than before. Along the way, Zhou Jiansheng, the 6 swordsmen, and the 7 swordsmen looked at Yan Chuan from time to time. "Martial Uncle Yan." Zhou Jiansheng's face twitched. "What? Martial Uncle Yan, why didn't you fight just now? As long as you enter the state of blood, you should be able to use this to establish your prestige. The disciples in the sect will not dare to underestimate you." "Ha ha ha, is there a need? Moreover, fighting with Jiang Nan really doesn't interest me. My sword likes to kill more." Yan Chuan smiled. Okay." Zhu Jiansheng and the others thought that Yan Chuan was pretending, but they couldn't expose him. They could only nod their heads with black lines on their faces. It didn't take long for them to arrive at Sky Peak. Sky Peak was located in the northwest of the Dae sect. It was the main peak, surrounded by many smaller peaks. The mountainside of the heavenly peak had also been leveled, and a large number of palaces had been built. Everyone arrived at the waist of the mountain and looked at the main hall. "King of Hell's Palace." Huo Guang read out the palace's name. This is the name that Martial Uncle Yan Tao changed back then. The Peak Lord can make a name for it. "Martial Uncle Yan, what name do you want it to be?" Zhu Jiansheng explained. "King of Hell's Palace." "Not bad, I like this name. Let's do it." Yan Chuan smiled. "Yes." Everyone nodded. Sky Peak, King of Hell's Palace. Huo Guang, let the soldiers find a place to rest for the night. Tomorrow morning, prepare for the tribulation. Yan Chuan said. "Yes." Huo Guang replied. The next morning, the sky had just brightened. The valley below Sky Peak was already filled with people. The 3,000 soldiers looked at Yan Chuan, who was standing at the front in high spirits. Zhu Jiansheng, the 6 swordsmen, and the 7 swordsmen were all looking at him expectantly. "Lu Jin, you start first. Trigger the tribulation." Yan Chuan ordered. "Yes." Lu Jin nodded. Rumble. Suddenly, rumbling sounds came from the interior of the Dae sect. The disciples who woke up early all looked at the Sky Peak in the northwest. At the Black Peak, Jiang Nan also saw the dark clouds in the distance. Chapter 247. First Tribulation Cloud. Jiang Nan said disdainfully. 2 people stood beside Jiang Nan. "Why? This Yan Chuan is too domineering. He wants to undergo tribulation. Why can't he let senior brother undergo tribulation too?" One of Jiang Nan's followers said unhappily. "Yeah, he's only going through the first tribulation. Senior brother is going through the second tribulation." The other person said. The more they talked, the uglier Jiang Nan's face became. "Yeah, Why should I listen to you? Looking at the tribulation cloud in the distance, Jiang Nan felt more and more uncomfortable. Protect me later. I'm going to undergo tribulation. Jiang Nan said with a gloomy face. Ah. Senior brother, you're going to fight with Yan Chuan. What do you mean fight? How can his first tribulation compare to senior brother's second tribulation? Senior brother is going to teach Yan Chuan a lesson. Don't be so arrogant. Yes, yes. He must at least crush Yan Chuan in terms of momentum. Let's see how arrogant he can be in the future. At the heavenly peak. The moment Lu Jin attracted the tribulation, the merit pool on the main peak suddenly stirred. Then, rays of yellow light rushed toward Lu Jin and enveloped Lu Jin. Rumble. The tribulation cloud was getting lower and lower. The pressure of the heavens caused smoke and dust to rise from below. King, was that the merit that poured into Lu Jin's body? Huo Guang asked curiously. That's right. When merit enters the body, it will reduce the damage of the tribulation. The success rate will be greatly increased. Yan Chuan explained. So it's like wearing a suit of armor. You can say that. Yan Chuan smiled. Just as Lu Jin was feeling the tribulation, a series of roars came from the southeast. Rumble. Dark clouds covered the southeast, and thunder and lightning kept roaring. The tribulation cloud was getting bigger and bigger. In the blink of an eye, it was 10,000 feet high. The thunder was much louder than Lu Jin's. Its momentum was more than 10 times that of Lu Jin's tribulation cloud. Black Peak also has people transcending tribulation. Zhu Jiansheng said in surprise. The six swordsmen frowned and said, the second heavenly thunder tribulation, is it Jiangnan? Yan Chuan coldly glanced in the southwest direction. Don't worry about him. Let's continue. Begin. Yan Chuan shouted. Yes. The 3,000 soldiers shouted in unison. Boom. The 3,000 soldiers unleashed their auras at almost the same time. For a moment, a strong gale swept through the valley, sending sand and stones flying. Rumble. The tribulation clouds above the heaven peak suddenly expanded once more. And at the black peak. Jiang Nan revealed a proud smile as he looked at the tribulation clouds that were 10 times larger than Tianfeng's. It was as if he could finally release the resentment he had accumulated over the past year. Boom 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 boom. Within the thunderclouds, 9 bolts of heavenly lightning struck down at the same time, heading straight for Jiang Nan. Roar. Jiang Nan's long sword slashed towards the 9 heavenly thunders in the sky. Boom. The lightning and sword collided, causing lightning to splatter in all directions. The entire valley was filled with electric arcs, and the entire valley was extremely dazzling. After the first round of lightning, Jiang Nan's hair was only a little messy. It was a very successful first strike. Jiang Nan glanced at the heaven peak. Rumble. The heavenly thunder tribulation had yet to begin, but the original tribulation clouds suddenly expanded. They were getting bigger and bigger. What's going on? Jiang Nan rubbed his eyes and asked in disbelief. The protector at the side shouted, Senior brother, I don't know either. The tribulation clouds above the heaven peak are getting bigger and bigger. Why are they so big? Rumble. The tribulation clouds above the heaven peak continued to expand. In the blink of an eye, it went from 1,000 feet to 100,000 feet. From 100,000 feet to 100,000 feet. The rolling tribulation clouds let out heavy thunderous roars, causing the entire Dae sect to be unable to breathe. Countless disciples were petrified as they looked at the heaven peak. The first heavenly tribulation clouds are so big? What kind of joke is this? Damn it, is this the first heavenly tribulation clouds? Am I blind? Chapter 248. Rumble. The tribulation clouds rumbled and weighed heavily on the hearts of all the Dae sect disciples. The first tribulation cloud of the heavenly peak. The second tribulation cloud of the black peak. Logically speaking, the second tribulation cloud of the heavenly peak should be stronger than the first tribulation cloud of the heavenly peak. However, at this moment, countless disciples were staring at the first tribulation cloud of the heavenly peak. Everyone had gone through the first tribulation cloud of the heavenly peak, but they had never gone through such a grand tribulation cloud. The rumbling tribulation clouds covered the sky and the earth. Tens of thousands of thunder roared and shook the heavens and earth. On the main peak, Feng Tairan and the other 3 peak masters were also looking at the 2 tribulation clouds. First heavenly peak. 3,000 people going through the tribulation together. This is a grand occasion throughout the ages. Gao Bufan said with a smile. What grand occasion? It's only the first heavenly peak. Mo Wuhui said sarcastically. Your disciple is right. Yan Chuan will cause trouble wherever he goes. Just like Yan Tao back then. Feng Tairan laughed. Same. Humph. Mo Wuhui snorted. Feng Tairan looked at Mo Wuhui and shook his head with a bitter smile. Black Peak. Rumble, rumble. The second tribulation lightning struck again. Jiang Nan slashed towards the tribulation lightning again. At the same time, he looked at the direction of the heavenly peak with an ugly expression. The rumbling black clouds of the heavenly peak suddenly exploded. Rumble. The first tribulation lightning had begun. Rumble. 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 The heavens and earth lit up. 3,000 tribulation lightning struck simultaneously. It was as if the heavenly river was pouring down. It was an incomparably spectacular sight. Furthermore, it was not the river water that was pouring down, but lightning. Endless lightning. The lightning was rolling like a river. Hiss. All the Dae sect disciples sucked in a breath of cold air. When had they ever seen such a spectacular sight? Was this a tribulation? This was a baptism of lightning. This was playing with one's life. The first tribulation of the heavenly peak had the effect of the fourth heavenly peak. No, even the fourth heavenly peak was not as shocking as this. It was too much, too fast. Rumble. 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 The lightning continued to strike, as if the heavenly peak was being punished by the heavens. Xian Feng. Jiang Nan's face instantly darkened. The trace of pride from before had long since vanished. He had wanted to use the aura of the heavenly tribulation to suppress Yan Chuan, but now, it was like a slap to his face, the kind that made a crisp sound. At this moment, Jiang Nan didn't know why, but he suddenly thought of a word, overconfident. Boom, boom, boom. The second round of 9 heavenly thunders struck down. Ah! Jiang Nan vented his anger by slashing towards the sky. Boom! The lightning was dazzling. Shaochen chopped down the third round of heavenly lightning with a single sword strike. The sword's momentum was ferocious, and sword energy shot out in all directions. Shaochen could be a role model for thousands of cultivators. If it were in the past, such a stunning strike would have won the cheers of the entire hall. But now, countless Xiuzha ignored Jiang Nan, as though he was doing something as boring as chopping wood. All of them were still looking in the direction of the heavenly peak. Jiang Nan suddenly felt bitter. Boom! With his emotions unstable, the fourth round of heavenly lightning struck down. Jiang Nan was careless and was struck by a bolt of heavenly lightning. His hair was disheveled and he was in an exceptionally sorry state. Ah! Jiang Nan roared, venting the inexplicable grievance in his heart. Last time, before he could draw his sword, Yan Chuan dealt with him. This time, it was even more embarrassing. He went up to launch a sneak attack, but Yan Chuan's tribulation clouds looked down on him. Chapter 249. It wasn't just a matter of losing face. It was more of a matter of dignity. Their dignity was trampled on again. Last time, they were trampled on. This time, they were the ones who delivered themselves to others. On Xian Peak. Feng Shao looked at Jiang Nan below with slight sympathy. On Heavenly Peak. Yan Chuan stared at the people undergoing the tribulation. It was the 7th round. The storm like lightning baptized the 3,000 soldiers again and again. Some of the soldiers were covered with injuries and fell to the ground as if they had no strength left. Stand up! Yan Chuan shouted. The soldiers who fell to the ground had no strength left. However, when they saw Yan Chuan's serious gaze, their hearts tightened. All of a sudden, their hearts tightened. Gritting their teeth, they slowly climbed to their feet. Even if I die, I will die standing. Damn it! The soldiers gathered their morale again. Rumble. The storm like lightning rained down again. Roar. The 3,000 soldiers roared in unison. They resisted the lightning with their bodies and tempered their bodies with the lightning. After another round of lightning baptism, many of the soldiers had no strength left. However, the others immediately helped them up. The army wasn't scattered. It was a cohesive team. They wouldn't abandon or give up. There's still one more round. No one is allowed to embarrass the king. Someone shouted. No one is allowed. Everyone supported each other and welcomed the last round of lightning. Roar. Boom. They roared in unison and received the last round of lightning. The entire valley was filled with dazzling lightning arcs. After the 3,000 soldiers withstood the last bolt of lightning, almost all of them fell down together. Rumble. The thunderclouds in the sky slowly dispersed. Ha 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 ha. Ha 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 ha. Although the soldiers who fell to the ground were fried on the outside and tender on the inside, they were still breathing. Although they didn't have much strength left, they were still laughing excitedly. The tribulation clouds on Heavenly Peak all dispersed. The first heavenly tribulation had ended. This wasn't just a tribulation. It was a grand visual feast. All the disciples of the Great River sect who were staring at the tribulation were excited. Similarly, the difference in Heavenly Peak had completely aroused everyone's interest. Rumble. Heavenly tribulation on Heavenly Peak continued. The second heavenly tribulation, the 29th heavenly tribulation. There were 18 rounds in total. Only half of them were down. Every round was filled with 9 bolts of lightning, which was equally spectacular. However, thinking back to the 10,000 lightning bolts just now, almost everyone who looked at the tribulation clouds in Jiangnan had a dull feeling. Jiangnan was provoked, and the impact on his heart was enormous. His former demeanor was swept to the ground, and he was even surrounded by danger for a moment. Watching Jiangnan go through the tribulation made everyone feel sorrowful. After looking at it for a while, no one paid attention to it anymore. Rumble. Slash. A man in Jiangnan shouted in embarrassment. On the heavenly peak, Zhu Jiansheng and the rest also looked in the direction of the black peak. It's Jiangnan, but... Zhu Jiansheng said with a complicated expression. Huo Guang said bluntly, he asked for it. Yesterday, the king told him not to go through the tribulation, but he insisted on showing off. Now he's reaping what he sowed. Zhu Jiansheng and the others smiled bitterly. Yan Chuan smiled faintly and ignored him. Huo Guang. Yan Chuan shouted. Here. Stay here and take care of everyone. This tribulation was very successful. With the help of morale and merit, everyone broke through. Very good. Before I come back, I will reward everyone. Yan Chuan said with a smile. Yes. I'm going to see Feng Tairan. Wait for me. Chapter 250. Yes. Before long, in front of the Great River Hall. Yan Chuan and Feng Tairan stood in front of the railing, holding onto the white jade railing as they looked in the direction of the black peak. Boom! Boom! In the end, Jiang Nan managed to block the 9 bolts of heavenly lightning. However, at this moment, Jiang Nan's clothes were torn and his body was scorched red. After the last bolt of heavenly thunder passed out, he fell to the ground and lost consciousness. Eldest senior brother, no, martial uncle. The 2 protectors rushed over anxiously. In front of the great river hall, Feng Tairan revealed a bitter smile. That child Jiang Nan shouldn't have suffered this. Is that so? Yan Chuan smiled faintly. Of course, although Jiang Nan's breakthrough is very fast, I can see that his foundation is very solid. If it weren't for you this time, he wouldn't even be injured after crossing the tribulation. Feng Tairan smiled bitterly. It's not a bad thing to be competitive. If he couldn't see the situation clearly, it would be fatal. He hasn't traveled the world yet, so it's better for him to suffer in his own home than to be taught by outsiders. Yan Chuan said with a smile. Feng Tairan looked at Yan Chuan strangely. Are you really only 18 years old? What do you think? Yan Chuan laughed. You are a monster. Feng Tairan shook his head and laughed. Maybe. After being confused for so many years, it's time to wake up. Yan Chuan said with a smile. Your clarity of mind is beyond my expectations. Feng Tairan smiled bitterly. Isn't that good? Yan Chuan laughed. All right. Feng Tairan nodded. Then, Feng Tairan's expression gradually became serious. I've already sent the others away. Now, let's talk about your father. Feng Tairan said solemnly. Well, I'm listening. Yan Chuan's face also became serious. The Earth Peak's Peak Lord, Mo Wu Hui, have you met him? Feng Tairan asked. Of course I remember. It seems that he doesn't like me very much. Yan Chuan smiled. Sigh, speaking of which, don't blame her. She won't harm you. Feng Tairan smiled bitterly. Oh. Back then, if it weren't for your mother's appearance, Wu Hui would have become your father's wife. It was only after your mother's appearance that everything changed, and she. All these years, she hasn't been able to let go. Feng Tairan explained. Yan Chuan's face turned solemn. The grudge he had against Mo Wu Hui was instantly dispelled. I watched Yan Tao grow up. When I passed on the position to him, I could see that he would definitely be the hope of the Dae sect in the future. Unfortunately, life makes fools of people. Feng Tairan felt a wave of regret. Yes. Yan Chuan was also silent for a while. Back then, the 100 sects came with great momentum. The other party's background was too great. At that time, in front of me, in front of the heads of the 100 sects, in front of that big shot, in front of the entire Dae sect, he drew his sword and cut his own throat. Ha! Feng Tairan's eyes were moist. My father was forced to commit suicide in front of everyone. A cold light flashed in Yan Chuan's eyes. Feng Tairan looked up to the sky and let out a long sigh. Your father was a sentimental person. At that time, your mother was seriously injured and died. Your father also wanted to die. In order to protect the Dae sect, he committed suicide with your mother. Feng Tairan said sorrowfully. Where is my father buried? Yan Chuan said in a cold tone. Buried? Oh, that big shot felt that it was not enough to vent his anger. In the end, he reached out and smashed your parents' bodies into powder. There were no bones left. We could only erect a cenotaph. Feng Tairan said sadly. Bastard! Boom! In his anger, Yan Chuan smashed the railing he was holding onto. I'll take you there. Come with me. Feng Tairan said bitterly. Chapter 251. Dae Sect. Halfway up a small mountain not far from the heavenly peak. Halfway up the mountain, there was an ordinary grave. There was no tombstone and it was just sitting there alone. If one didn't clean it often, one would easily mistake it for a small mound. In front of the grave, there was some wine, fruits, and a bouquet of fresh flowers. Not far away, there was a stone table and stone stool. Feng Tairan and Yan Chuan stood in front of the small grave in silence. Many people don't know about this small grave. For the sake of Dae sect, I don't dare to let too many people know about it. I'm worried that the big shot's anger hasn't subsided. This is your parents' grave. Wu Hui has been cleaning it. Feng Tairan smiled bitterly. Peak Master Mo Wu Hui. Yan Chuan frowned. Yes, she can't let it go. I often see her coming at night and sitting on this stone stool for the whole night. Feng Tairan said bitterly. I understand. Yan Chuan nodded. Let's sit down and talk. Tao also left you something. Feng Tairan said. The two sat on the stone stool. Feng Tairan flipped his hand and took out a jade box. The jade box was covered with blood-red seals. Streams of light flashed across it, making it look extremely mysterious. Blood essence seal? Yan Chuan asked doubtfully. Yes, your father gave this to me before he killed himself. He said that only your blood can open the seal. You've heard of this seal? Feng Tairan was surprised. Yes, indeed. The person who set up this seal and the person who unsealed it must have the same bloodline. At the same time, the person who set up the seal must have dyed the seal with my blood. This seal was indeed left behind by my father. Yan Chuan nodded. Tao said that he wrote everything down and put it in this box. You'll understand when you see it. Feng Tairan said. All right. Yan Chuan nodded. Dong. At the main peak, the sound of a bell suddenly rang out. Feng Tairan looked in the direction of the main peak in surprise. What is it? The bell will only ring when something big happens in the sect. I'll go take a look. Feng Tairan stood up. Yan Chuan nodded. Whoosh. In the blink of an eye, Feng Tairan shot into the distance. Yan Chuan ignored him and looked at the grave mound. He frowned and looked at the jade box. He forced out a drop of blood essence and dripped it into the seal. Chi! The blood-red restriction melted like snow and soon disappeared. Taking a deep breath, Yan Chuan gently opened the jade box. There were a total of 4 items in the jade box. There was a letter, a map, a small purple token, and a yellow wooden stake that was as thick as an arm and covered in runes. Yan Chuan took out the letter first. For my son, opening the envelope, Yan Chuan took out the letter and began to read it. Son, when you see this letter, your father will definitely go to see your mother. Your mother and I are very regretful that we didn't get to see you grow up. Your mother was thinking about you even when she was about to die. Alas. Now, hundreds of sects have forced us to leave you these last words and tell you everything. Your father is called Yen Tao, your mother is called Kong Susu, the daughter of the Western Kong family. Do you see the purple token in the box? Your mother asked me to leave it for you. It's called Ask Heaven Token. It's useless to tell you too much now. In the future, if you can become stronger, you should be able to find out when you go to the West. However, your mother and the Kong family have a bad relationship, very bad. You should not trust the Kong family too much. Chapter 252. Seeing this, Yan Chuan took out the purple token from the jade box. The token was octagonal, with the words, Ask, and Heaven, written on it. The material was very special. Even with Yan Chuan's experience, he could not tell what it was. The Ask Heaven token was simple and did not have the slightest ripple of mana. But in Yan Chuan's eyes, it was extraordinary. Yen Tao, Kong Susu. Yan Chuan looked at the small grave not far away and sighed. Then, he continued to look at the envelope. Son, let me tell you a secret of the Yen clan. You should have heard of blood demon Yen Tao. Hair like blood. Nature like a demon. I don't know when you will be able to reach my level. But, in theory, everyone in the Yen clan has this chance. It's just that some people can trigger it, while others can't. This is a supernatural power that only belongs to the Yen clan. Do you know about supernatural powers? Our ancestor was a powerful immortal. This is a supernatural power created by the immortal. After the bloodline was passed down, some of the descendants of the immortal will inherit this supernatural power. The entire Yen clan is passed down by word of mouth. Unfortunately, I didn't have enough time and could only leave a letter to tell you. I didn't bring any clan members into the cultivation world because I was worried that if it was exposed, it would lead to a disaster. I only prepared to bring some geniuses into the cultivation world. Unfortunately, I didn't meet any geniuses in these years. Of course, my son is definitely a genius. I saw Yen Qiuyu's son last time and he seemed to have a natural sword bone. At that time, I knew that I was going to die, so I didn't bring him into the cultivation world. If you have the chance in the future, you can guide him to cultivate. Our bloodline's supernatural power is called supernatural power. Although I don't know what our ancestor was thinking, I still like this name. Super, it means to surpass those of the same level. Once the supernatural power is activated, within a day, one's strength will skyrocket to the point where it can surpass those of the same level. At that time, you will be very excited, extremely bloodthirsty. But don't worry, your rationality will still be there. It's just that you will be more excited. It's like quickly raising your cultivation level by one level. The power realm can be raised to the essence realm in a day. As for the level of the profound realm, it would depend on one's luck. I'm a chi refiner. During the Heaven's Gift Conference, I defeated many emptiness realm experts. According to our ancestors, there are 3 different states of super mystiques. What I experienced just now was only the first state. I haven't experienced the second or third state yet. But don't worry, these states usually only last for a day. They won't affect you. After a day, he would have to wait at least a month before he could activate it again. Make good use of it. Holding the envelope, Yan Chuan narrowed his eyes. Immortal bloodline. Super divine ability. His strength instantly skyrocketed by an entire realm. A realm. This divine ability is indeed powerful. Yan Chuan exclaimed in shock. Father, you've done well. Once this ability is known by some sinister people, our Yen clan will never have a day of peace. Yan Chuan took a deep breath. After a moment of silence, he turned his attention back to the envelope. Over the past few hundred years, I have some savings. But this time, your mother and I were forced into a corner and implicated too many people. I have given many things to my old friends as compensation. I hope you don't blame us. Chapter 253. Of course, I didn't plan to leave too much for you. My son, Yen Tao, must rely on his own hands to create a world. It's not good to leave too much for you. Work hard and take revenge for us in the future. Remember, the person who killed your mother and I was a strong man in the West. He's called Emperor Mo. He's very famous in the West. You'll definitely know him in the future. It's only right for a son to take revenge for a father. However, son, you have to do everything within your means. Before taking revenge, you must protect yourself. Your mother and I will protect you. Seeing this, Yan Chuan smiled slightly. It's only right for a son to take revenge for a father. Don't worry, one day, I will use his head to pay tribute to you. Emperor Mo. He actually calls himself emperor. Yan Chuan thought for a moment. Of course, I can't leave nothing for you. Do you see the map in the box? That's a huge mine I found. If you don't have the ability, you can slowly continue the Yen clan's bloodline with this mine. It's enough to eat for tens of thousands of years. If you can make a career out of it, you can take out this mine and use it yourself. However, you have to reach the divine realm before you can take it. Right now, you don't have the ability to protect it. After reaching the divine realm, go and take a look at this huge mine that I left for you, haha. Mine? Yen Chuan looked at the map in the box. The map was very detailed. Although he didn't know where it was, as long as he was nearby, he should be able to find it. Okay, I'll look for it when I reach the divine realm. Yen Chuan smiled slightly and didn't care about the mine. There's also a wooden stake in the box. Do you see it? That thing isn't mine and I don't know how to use it, but it's definitely a treasure. This was left behind by an old man from the Archaic Mysteries sect before he died. You may not know about the Archaic Mysteries sect, but it's best not to provoke them. They're a sect that cultivates luck, the most mysterious place in the world. They rarely wander around. But I was lucky to meet this old man. I asked him to help me calculate your and ZZ's. The old man said that your soulless disease will definitely recover one day. It's just that he doesn't know when. Then, he helped to calculate ZZ's. In the end, he had calculated his own death. He didn't know if it was true or not. Before he died, he said that he had caused a great disaster by divining ZZ. He had gone against heaven's will and was punished by heaven, so he had to die. He didn't know if it was true or not. Old man. Looks like he's a fate usurper who cultivates fate. He divined purple and suffered a backlash from the heavens? Yen Chuan said in astonishment. He continued reading. The old man said that ZZ's life providence was Tao God's wife. In other words, from the moment she was born, she was destined to be the wife of a Tao God. I asked the old man, who is the Tao God? The old man said that the Tao God was the heavens. ZZ was born to be God's wife. If it weren't for the fact that he kept vomiting blood, he would have kicked him. The vast heavens did not have any consciousness, so how could it marry a wife? Was the old man crazy? The old man told me that it wasn't a curse on ZZ, but a heavenly curse. The heavenly curse had been with ZZ as she grew up. She was the wife of a Tao God, and she couldn't be blasphemed. Heaven wouldn't allow it. No one could. So under the heavenly curse, no one could get close. Regardless of whether they were good to her or bad to her, they would have endless bad luck. The heavenly curse would eliminate anyone who dared to touch ZZ. I'm only telling you the old man's words. Judge for yourself. After the old man finished divining ZZ, he left a few words and died. He left behind the wooden stake that he had divined. You can do as you see fit. Finally, son, if your mother and I are in heaven, we will definitely bless you. Chapter 254. Finally, son, if your mother and I are in heaven, we will definitely bless you. After reading the last sentence, Yen Chuan fell into a deep silence. Although the whole thing was about stories, one could feel a deep sense of father-son love between the lines. Yen Chuan folded the letter and gently placed it in his bosom. He remained silent for a long time. He looked at the remaining 3 items in the box, the map, the heaven-seeking token, and the yellow wooden stake. He gently closed the jade box. Standing up, Yen Chuan looked around. The Jade Emperor's sword in his hand slashed at a huge rock. Clang! 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 After a series of slashes, a large tombstone was carved out. Boom! The tombstone was inserted in front of the small grave. Clang! Clang! The Jade Emperor's sword carved on the tombstone. The tomb of my late father Yen Tao and mother Kong Susu. Erected by Yen Chuan. A tombstone was carved in an instant. Looking at the tombstone, Yen Chuan took a deep breath and said, "In this life, you are my parents. This is fate. Yan Chuan will not let you down. After that, Yan Chuan bowed deeply to the grave for a while. Then, he carried the jade box and walked towards Heaven Peak. Not long after Yan Chuan left, a white figure landed in front of the grave. It was the Earth Peak's peak master, Mo Wu Hui. Looking at the new tombstone, Mo Wu Hui's eyes unconsciously shed 2 lines of tears. Senior, all these years, no one dared to erect a tombstone for you. Because as soon as someone suggested it, many people would oppose it. They were too afraid. Your son erected it without anyone's consent. Ha! I see that your son will not disgrace you. Mo Wu Hui touched the tombstone and said sadly. Big sister Kong already agreed to it back then. Why didn't senior brother accept me? Before she died, she asked me to take good care of you. Why didn't you give me a chance? I know that you want to protect my life. But without you, what's the point of me living? Mo Wu Hui bit his lips and said sadly. Senior brother, although you can't accept me, you can't stop me from liking you. When you died that day, my heart had already died. I promised elder sister Kong that I would take good care of you, but you didn't give me a chance. I've thought about it. I'll help your son become the sect head. When he becomes the sect head, I'll come and see you. Mo Wu Hui said in a choked voice, Heaven Peak, King Yama's palace. When Yan Chuan returned, Feng Tairan also came to Heaven's Peak in the evening. Yan Chuan, I'm here to tell you that I'll be leaving the sect soon. I've already arranged everything for you to enjoy in the sect. Feng Tairan said. What happened? Yan Chuan asked doubtfully. Something did happen. Recently, a large number of demonic beasts escaped from the demonic Wind Mountain range. As a result, there are many demonic beasts around the Dae sect. 2 first-generation disciples went to the demonic Wind Mountain range to investigate. In the end, one died and the other returned with injuries. Feng Tairan said with an ugly expression. You're going to the demonic Wind Mountain range? Yan Chuan frowned. That's right. Feng Tairan nodded. I don't care about your matters. Before I leave, I want to trouble you with something. Huh? Back then, there were 100 sects that forced my father to his death. Please write them down one by one for me. Yan Chuan said solemnly. 100 sects. You want to? Feng Tairan raised his eyebrows. Don't worry, I'll do what I can. Yan Chuan said. Chapter 255. Although a little reluctant, Feng Tairan nodded and said, Okay, you must be careful, don't be reckless. I know. Taking out a pen and paper, Feng Tairan quickly wrote. Great Winged Heaven School. Life League. Misty Mountain. Feng Tairan quickly wrote down all the 100 sections. 100 sects. My father said that the one who forced them to death was Emperor Mo Ku, a big shot from the west. These are all from the west? Yan Chuan said in a deep voice. No, these are all sects from the east. In fact, the main one is the Great Winged Heaven School. The other sects are all vassals of the Great Winged Heaven School. Feng Tairan said. Oh. I don't know if you're aware of this, but other than the Heaven's Merit Pool, there's also the sect conferment. The upper sect can confer titles to some middle sects, and the middle sects can confer titles to lower sects. The sects that have been conferred titles can receive the merit pool, but half of the accumulated merits must be contributed to the sect that conferred the title. Moreover, the upper sect has orders that the sects that have been conferred titles must obey unconditionally. I know that the heaven and earth merit pool obtained in this way does not belong to us. The upper sect can withdraw it at any time, and such vassals can only be vassals forever. The days of being a vassal are not good. Yan Chuan said in a deep voice. The Great Winged Heaven School is a middle sect. When the Great Winged Heaven School gave an order, nearly 100 sects all joined in. Back then, it was overwhelming. 100,000 cultivators surrounded the Dae sect so tightly that even mosquitoes couldn't fly out. Feng Tairan smiled bitterly. Great Winged Heaven School. 100,000 cultivators from 100 sects. Yan Chuan's face was gloomy. The Great Winged Heaven School originally had no enmity with our Dae sect. The one who ordered the 100 sects to surround and kill the Dae sect was the current Shinkuan Kuroha. It seems that Emperor Mo Ku helped him win the position of sect master. Feng Tairan said in a deep voice. Shinkuan Kuroha. Yan Chuan nodded solemnly. I'm leaving soon. Take good care of yourself. Feng Tairan comforted. Don't worry. Yan Chuan nodded. After sending Feng Tairan off, Yan Chuan frowned and pondered for a while before bringing Lu Jin to the scripture pavilion on the main peak. With Feng Tairan's instructions, the guards of the scripture depository did not make things difficult for him. Peak Master Tian, there are nearly 1,000 cultivation techniques in the scripture depository. Have you thought of a good cultivation technique? I'll get it for you. The guard said respectfully. I want all the sword techniques, spear techniques, and whip techniques. Also, all the cultivation techniques above the earth level. Yan Chuan said directly. Ah. The guard was at a loss. What's wrong? There are spear techniques, sword techniques, and whip techniques. However, our Dae sect only has the human-level cultivation technique. The only earth-level cultivation technique can only be practiced by the sect master of each generation. Only the sect master has it. The guard was in a difficult position. Then forget about the cultivation technique. Give me the movement technique. Yan Chuan said. Yes. Soon, nearly 100 cultivation techniques were delivered to Yan Chuan. Yan Chuan nodded. He let Lu Jin carry them and turned to return to the heavenly peak. In the King of Hell's palace. Huo Guang looked at the booklets in front of him with slight excitement. In the mortal world, this was a cultivation technique that people would fight for. Huo Guang. Here. Take these 20 spear techniques back and practice them well. Among the 100 weapons, the spear is the hardest to practice. It's easy to learn but hard to master. Some people practice only one spear for their entire life. If they learn too many things, they won't be able to master anything. Since you have chosen the spear, you will practice the spear for the rest of your life. As for other weapons, at most, you will have a shallow understanding. Yan Chuan said in a deep voice. Yes. Huo Guang replied. Also, only the cultivation techniques created by yourself are the strongest. Although these 20 spear techniques are powerful, they are suitable for the creator. You, the First Legion, practice them well. Assimilate them and make them your own. Then, create something that belongs to you. Learn from the strengths of other schools and create your own path. Yan Chuan said in a deep voice. Thank you, my king. Huo Guang said respectfully. Huo Guang understood that the king was guiding him. Although they did not address each other as master and disciple, the king's guidance was more detailed. Lu Jin, I see that you like to play with the horsetail whisk. You can learn this whip technique with me. Yan Chuan said with a smile. Ah. The Lord also practices the whip. Lu Jin said in surprise. I am also using it as a reference. Just like these sword techniques. Although they are ordinary, there will be benefits. Yan Chuan explained. Yes. Lu Jin nodded. By the way, my king, what do you mean by the earth-class cultivation techniques that you mentioned earlier? Lu Jin asked curiously. The techniques that we brought back are only techniques. There is another type of cultivation technique. The higher the grade of the cultivation technique, the faster the cultivation, the more solid it is, or the more outstanding it is in a certain aspect. For example, some ice-type and fire-type cultivation techniques are classified into different categories. The quality of these cultivation techniques is mainly divided into heaven class, earth class, and human class cultivation techniques. Under the immortal cultivation techniques, heaven class cultivation techniques are the strongest, and human class cultivation techniques are the weakest. Yan Chuan explained. Oh, I understand. But our cultivation techniques are not even at the human class level. Why? Lu Jin did not understand. Don't worry. I will help you find them. Yan Chuan said with a smile. Yes, the two answered. Cultivate these cultivation techniques well. The First Legion should also rest well. Thousands of demons have escaped from the demonic wind mountains. In a month, I will take you out of the sect to kill them. Yan Chuan said in a low voice. Yes. Go. The two left the King of Hell's palace. They closed the door. Only Yan Chuan was left in the palace. Yan Chuan lifted his left sleeve. The seed-like birthmark on his wrist was exposed again. However, the birthmark was slightly different now. The seed had changed a little, as if it had grown. I have just reached the essence state. My essence is limited. How can I feed you? In a month, when the First Legion is mature, we will go out to kill demons and devour a large number of demons. Then, I will slowly refine the essence to feed you. Yan Chuan smiled. As he spoke, Yan Chuan's wrist trembled slightly. A green vine slowly emerged from the birthmark. The vine grew longer and longer. In the blink of an eye, it had grown to 20 feet. He held the vine firmly with his left hand and swung it slightly. The vine instantly wrapped around the Jade Emperor's sword not far away. With a slight pull, the Jade Emperor's sword flew to his right hand. In mid-air, the Jade Emperor's sword seemed to be struggling and trembled slightly. Buzz! The tip of the vine was instantly shattered. The Jade Emperor's sword also returned to Yan Chuan's right hand with the help of inertia. The remaining vine was unusually flexible. It was as if it was a part of Yan Chuan's body. Whoosh! The vine suddenly retracted into the birthmark on Yan Chuan's wrist. You're too weak. Right now, I can't use my whip techniques at all. Yan Chuan smiled slightly. But I believe in you, Poison Ivy. You will definitely be able to recover. Yan Chuan said with certainty. Chapter 256. A month later, north of Dae sect. Yan Chuan led the army across the mountains and stopped at the peak of a mountain. Huo Guang and Lu Jin stood behind him. Yan Chuan touched the small gray jade token on his neck and smiled. King, the queen asked the great swordsman to give you a safety talisman when she arrived at Carefree City. Is the safety talisman still useful after entering the cultivation world? Lu Jin smiled. This is not a safety talisman. Perhaps Zizi has never seen a real one. She just wanted to give me peace of mind. Yan Chuan smiled. No matter what, it is the queen's goodwill. Even if it's just for peace of mind. Lu Jin smiled. No, this is not an accessory. This is called an Earth Escape Talisman. The great swordsman must have never seen it before, so he did not recognize it. Yan Chuan said. Earth Escape Talisman. That's right. This Earth Escape Talisman is extremely precious. Many times, it can save one's life. Even an Earth-grade cultivation technique might not be comparable to it. Yan Chuan said. Oh. Lu Jin nodded. King, where are we going? We saw some demonic beasts on the way. Why didn't you let us kill them? Huo Guang was puzzled. I'm bringing you to earn merit. Yan Chuan smiled. Merit? Huo Guang was surprised. King, how do we earn merit? Lu Jin asked curiously. It's not difficult, but it's not easy either. Oh. The purest form of gratitude is merit. Yan Chuan smiled. Gratitude? How? For example, let's say a bandit wants to kill 10 women and children. When the 10 women and children are at their most helpless, if you help them fight off the bandit or kill the bandit, will the 10 women and children be grateful to you? Yan Chuan asked. Probably. Yan Chuan explained, once this feeling of gratitude is produced, it will turn into merit. When you have a merit pool to absorb merit, this merit will continuously flow into it. Merit is a sense of gratitude. That's simple. Huo Guang exclaimed in surprise. That's not right, my king. What if it's the gratitude of being cheated? For example, if there were no bandits in the first place, I could lie to the women and children, saying that bandits were about to kill them. They would panic, and I could lie to them that I had already defeated the bandits. These women and children would still be grateful to me. Could this gratitude be converted into merit? Lu Jin said after some thought. Ha ha ha, well said, but that doesn't count. Why? Merit and virtue actually have to be separated into two words. One is merit and the other is virtue. To be more precise, the concept of gratefulness was the virtue. If one did not contribute enough merit to this virtue, how could it be formed? Whatever man does, the heavens are watching. Yan Chuan said with a smile. Yes, we understand. The two of them took a deep breath. All of you have experienced too little merit. As the peak master of Heavenly Peak, the merit I enjoy can double my cultivation speed. However, the merit sect master Feng Tai Ren enjoys can triple his cultivation speed. This is what it means to be in a lower sect. As one's grade increases, the effect of the merit that he enjoys will become stronger. Yan Chuan explained. Yes. We will work hard to accumulate merit. Huo Guang said excitedly. Let's go. The border of the Demon Wind Mountain Range is in front of us. It is a mortal kingdom. Now that thousands of demons have escaped, it will definitely become a gathering place for demons. Not only can we accumulate resources there, we can also earn merit. Yan Chuan said. Yes. Chapter 257. Half a day later, after crossing hundreds of rivers, Yan Chuan and the others stood on top of a hill. Everyone's eyes widened. In front of them was a city that looked like Yanjing. Most of the city walls had collapsed. Ah! Save me! Dad, save me! Screams of agony could be heard continuously. A large number of bat-like monsters were flying in the sky above the city. They kept grabbing mortals and taking them away, or they would eat them nearby. On the ground, there were also a large number of monsters. After breaking through the city walls, they kept biting the mortals. The scene was extremely bloody. It was like hell on earth. King. Huo Guang's expression changed. Monsters that are interested in mortals can't be too strong. They should be in the essence state. Go and kill them. Build up your achievements first, then you'll get good karma. Yan Chuan said in a deep voice. Yes. Huo Guang replied. First Legion, follow me and kill the enemies. Huo Guang shouted. Yes. The 3,000 soldiers of the embroidered uniform army were like ferocious tigers descending the mountain. Under Huo Guang's command, they charged straight towards the demonic beasts below. Fire! Huo Guang shouted. Bang! Thousands of arrows rained down on the bat monsters in the distance. Wah wah wah! The bat monsters roared angrily. Kill! Kill! The army charged into the city in the blink of an eye. There were hundreds of monsters in the city and hundreds of bat monsters circling in the sky. However, the army was well trained. Wherever they went, they were invincible. It's the Immortals. We're saved. Help. Save my dad. My dad was taken by the bats. That's great. As if they had entered hell, infinite hope appeared in the eyes of the people. The Immortals were here. Once they killed the monsters, they would be saved. Everyone was grateful. At the peak of the mountain, Lu Jin accompanied Yan Chuan to watch the massacre in the city. Wang, the cultivation techniques of the Immortal sect are indeed extraordinary. Huo Guang and the others' battle prowess has increased by at least 30%. Lu Jin said excitedly. Cultivation method? The best cultivation methods are all tempered in life and death. Yan Chuan said coolly. They quietly waited for the massacre in the city. 2 hours, 4 hours, 6 hours later. After the army killed nearly 600 demonic beasts, the remaining demonic beasts fled one after another. We're saved. Heavens, the demon is gone, the demon is gone. I'm saved. I don't want to die. I don't want to die. The survivors in the city were all overjoyed. After a moment of ecstasy, everyone fell silent again. The pain of losing a loved one welled up in his heart once again. Fellow immortals, if it wasn't for you, all the citizens in our city would have died. May I ask where you are from? Yi City would like to erect a shrine for all of you to thank you forever. The mayor stepped forward. We are from the Dai sect, the people of Tianfeng. My name is Huo Guang. Huo Guang said with a smile. Ignoring these mortals, he ordered his subordinates to carry the demonic beasts out of the city. When they left the city, all the citizens came out of the city to send them off. Many even kowtowed to express their gratitude. Waves of gratitude surged out of his heart. It was as if streaks of yellow light were rushing to everyone. The soldiers didn't notice anything, but Huo Guang had the army destroyer will. He felt a warm current flowing into his heart. At the same time, in the Dai sect. Rumble. Merit kept churning in the merit pool. Chapter 258. Many disciples looked up at the sky. The merit pool has grown bigger. Why is there such a huge amount of merit? Who earned it? The heavenly peak. The extra merit came from the heavenly peak. Heavenly peak. The disciples of the Dai sect were surprised. Yan Chuan had just returned and he was already accumulating merit. Mo Wuhui, Gao Bufan, and Feng Tianyu frowned as they looked at the sky. Yan Chuan went out. He should be saving the mortals of the cold country in the north. Feng Tianyu guessed. Merit is boundless. However, now that thousands of demons are escaping, it's fine if they encounter low-level demons. If they encounter high-level demons, will they be in danger? Gao Bufan sighed. Before the sect leader left, he told us not to leave the sect. Moreover, we don't know where Yan Chuan went. We can't do anything about it. Mo Wuhui frowned. How about this, I will send my 7 disciples out to find Yan Chuan and protect Yan Chuan. Gao Bufan thought for a while and said. That would be the best. Feng Tianyu nodded. Mo Wuhui did not say anything. In a valley. Lu Jin and the rest served Yan Chuan. Yan Chuan ate the wolf meat and looked at the two of them. Huo Guang, how do the soldiers feel? In 3 days, we have eaten nearly 500 demons. This is something we would never have dared to think about in the past. I asked you, what did you learn from the battle? Yan Chuan smiled. I misunderstood. Battle? The spear art that we learned a month ago is comprehended faster in battle. Huo Guang said with a serious face. Well, this is just the beginning. That was just one city. This mortal country is not just one city. This mortal country is called the Cold Country. We'll kill our way to their capital, Liangjing. We'll kill as many demonic beasts as there are, and we'll let you guys practice. Yan Chuan said. Yes, but in the last battle, 2 soldiers were accidentally bitten to death by the demon wolves. Huo Guang said regretfully. Accidentally? After this, they will know how to be careful. Without experiencing the tempering of countless life and death situations, how can they become lions of 100 battles? Yan Chuan said solemnly. Yes. Huo Guang said regretfully. I understand. When I was a soldier, I already had this awareness. It's just that those two soldiers were already in the essence realm. It's such a pity that they died at this moment. Looking at Huo Guang, Yan Chuan smiled faintly, shook his head and said, Do you think practitioners don't have to die? Just like mortals, they are very weak, because cultivators also face stronger opponents. When fighting, they must learn how to protect themselves. Yes. When we return to the Yen state, if half of the 3,000 soldiers are still alive, I'll be relieved. Yan Chuan sighed softly. Half. Huo Guang's expression changed. Go and have a meal with the soldiers. Yes, I will definitely protect the soldiers. Huo Guang said solemnly. Nodding, Yan Chuan ignored him and continued to eat the demonic beasts. Half of the demonic beast's essence was used to strengthen his body, and the other half was eaten by the poison ivy birthmark on his right wrist. 2 days later, the group arrived at the vicinity of another city. Save me. Kill. In the city, demonic beasts roamed freely. However, there were also close to 1,000 cultivators who were wielding their swords and killing the demonic beasts. Moreover, there was a cultivator who was carrying a huge flag. There were 3 big words written on the flag. Life League. King, these are cultivators from another sect, right? They are also accumulating merits? Huo Guang asked curiously. Life League? Yan Chuan narrowed his eyes. King, you know them? Huo Guang asked curiously. Back then, the Life League had a part to play in forcing my father to his death. Yan Chuan's eyes turned cold. Huo Guang and Lu Jin's expressions changed. King, don't worry. None of these 1,000 people will leave. Huo Guang immediately said in a deep voice. Chapter 259. Your Majesty, don't worry. None of these 1,000 people will leave. Huo Guang immediately said in a deep voice. Yes. Yan Chuan replied in a low voice. I'll go now. Huo Guang was about to summon the First Legion. Now? For what? Yan Chuan shook his head. Wait. Remember, stay calm at all times. These people are fighting with the beasts. Wait until they're done before you attack. Besides, we haven't found their leader yet. Yan Chuan said. Yes. Huo Guang replied. At the same time, on another mountain peak, there were 5 men in Taoist robes. The 5 of them carried long swords on their backs and looked down at the city below. Big brother, there are people over there. Suddenly, one of them said. Everyone turned around and saw Yan Chuan and his group from afar. 3,000? That many? Another man frowned. Who are these people? While everyone was worried, the leader sneered, Don't worry. Oh. I know these people. It's been more than a month. They're the bastards of the Dai sect, Yen Tao. The leader sneered. Yan Chuan. That's right. They're just a bunch of people who came from the secular world. The leader said. It's our people who are killing the beasts in the city. Yan Chuan wouldn't want to take advantage of us, would he? He doesn't deserve it. The leader sneered. Big brother, what should we do? If he wants to defend, then let him. We'll wait for the Life League to earn some merit points, then we'll take care of them. 3,000? We 5 Qi-Jing warriors don't have to do anything. The leader said. Yes. At the same time, Yan Chuan turned to look at the 5 men. King, there are people over there. Huo Guang said. 5 Qi-Jing warriors, don't worry. Yan Chuan said. Yes. Huo Guang nodded. The army waited patiently. Finally, after 4 hours, all the demonic beasts in the distance had been driven away. Nearly 100 of the nearly 1,000 cultivators had died. All of them dragged their fatigue and earned the gratitude of the citizens of the city, earning enough merit. Carrying the corpses of the demonic beasts, the group stepped out of the city. He met up with the other 5 Qi Jing warriors and walked towards Yan Chuan. Yan Chuan led the first legion and slowly walked into a huge canyon. He started to confront the people of the Life League. The 5 Qi Jing warriors sneered at Yan Chuan. "You are Yan Tao's vile spawn." The leader sneered. "You know my father?" Yan Chuan said with a deep smile. "How could I not know him? Back then, when we encircled and annihilated your father, we saw him commit suicide with our own eyes. What, are you here to take revenge today?" The leader sneered. "You're right." Yan Chuan smiled. "Huh." The 5 of them were slightly stunned. Fierce tiger army formation. Yan Chuan's face turned serious. "Yes." Boom boom boom. The 3,000 soldiers immediately stood in their former military formation. Blood qi gushed out, forming the phantom image of a fierce tiger once again. "Oh. An array." The 5 Qi Jing warriors squinted their eyes. "All rivers flow into the sea, gather your blood and qi into my body." Yan Chuan shouted. "Roar." The 3,000 soldiers roared and waved their hands. A red qi of blood flowed through the fierce tiger army formation and into Yan Chuan's body. Boom boom boom. Yan Chuan's long hair fluttered in the wind. As the 3,000 qi of blood flowed into his body, a powerful qi of blood exploded around him. The qi of blood spread out and turned the surrounding soil upside down. "This is..." The leader of the Qi Jing warriors was shocked. Chapter 260. Gathering the strength of 3,000 people. "You want me to reach the Qi state?" So what if he is at the Qi Jing level? He is at most at the early stage of the Qi Jing level. That's right. His strength has increased to the Qi realm, and he doesn't have any combat experience. There's nothing to worry about. The 5 Qi Jing cultivators said disdainfully, but they all pulled out their swords. Yan Chuan's power suddenly increased. He borrowed the blood and qi from the 3,000 people and reached the early Qi Jing level. Stepping out, he was surrounded by a whirlwind. Xing! Yan Chuan pulled out the Jade Emperor sword. "Huo Guang, reorganize the troops and take a break. Wait for me to kill these 5 Qi Jing warriors. Don't leave a single one alive." Yan Chuan said in a deep voice. "Understood." Huo Guang replied. He stomped on the ground. Boom! Yan Chuan drew his sword and shot out. A sword cultivator charged forward with a cold expression. Dang! 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 Qi! That practitioner was split in half by Yan Chuan's sword. Old 5. Someone on the other side exclaimed. Impossible. How is that possible? 5 swords. He killed Old 5th with just 5 strikes. The 4 Qi state cultivators' hair stood on end as they stared at Yan Chuan in shock. What kind of sword technique is this? The leader asked with an extremely ugly expression. Yan Chuan's sword technique is the 24 moves of sword. Unfortunately, he was too weak. He was only able to reach the 5th move before he was cut down by me. Yan Chuan sneered. Attack together. The leader said with an ugly expression. Okay. The other 3 answered at the same time. The 4 of them immediately formed a sword formation and charged towards Yan Chuan. Yan Chuan's lips curled into a cold smile as he charged forward. Clink. 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 As the 2 swords clashed, Yan Chuan's body turned into a blur of shadows. Sword chi shot out from his hands as he swung his sword, creating hundreds of sword shadows that blocked the attack of the 4 chi state warriors. Impossible, we 4 sword cultivators can't beat this little brat. Sun and moon sword formation. Roar. Strong winds blew in all directions, and dust rose in all directions. The smoke and dust was filled with the sword chi that burst out from the crowd. Huo Guang and Lu Jin both looked worried. Chi. A streak of bloody light soared into the sky. Large amounts of internal organs, intestines, and blood sprayed out. They were colorful and extremely disgusting. Second brother. A cry of surprise came from within the dust. This is only sword 5. Die, sword 6. Yan Chuan's cold shout came from within the dust. Chi. Another blood-red light soared into the sky, and an arm flew out of the smoke and dust. Ah! Third brother, you killed third brother. Seventh swordsman. Chi. Ah, boss is dead. You killed boss. His voice was trembling. Trying to escape. Eighth sword. Following Yan Chuan's last shout, a large amount of severed limbs soared into the sky again. The sound in the dust shocked the disciples of the Life League. Before the dust settled, Yan Chuan slowly walked out with blood all over his body. The Jade Emperor's sword turned bright red again. Although Yan Chuan's body was covered in blood, it was not his own. When he walked out coldly, the Imperial Secret Army was shocked. 5 Chi Realm cultivators. Their king killed 5 Chi Realm cultivators. Huo Guang, I'll leave the rest to you. Yan Chuan said in a deep voice. Yes. Brothers, the target is 200 feet away from the enemy. Leave no one alive. Kill. Huo Guang shouted. Roar. After 10,000 arrows were shot, the 3,000 soldiers quickly rushed forward. Their king's order was to leave no one alive. Therefore, they could not let them escape. As the army charged forward, the dust from the battlefield also dissipated. When the dust settled, there was a ground full of severed limbs and Chi realm cultivators. Chapter 261. King, are you alright? Lu Jin immediately went up to him. Don't worry, I'll just wash them later. The ferocious tiger army formation won't be able to hold out for long. Those 5 Chi Jing cultivators were asking for it. Yan Chuan said with a smile. Kill. Avenge the old emperor. I'm invincible. 3,000 Jin E army soldiers charged forward. The Life League disciples were already exhausted from killing the beasts earlier. How could they face the Jin E army? Ah! Don't kill me. Help. After a series of screams, they were all killed by the Jin E army. The ground was littered with corpses. Search them. Put the items with Lu Jin. Bury them later. Yan Chuan said. Yes. From the bodies of the cultivators, they found some herbs, fasting pills, and 3,000 low-grade spiritual stones. They were all placed in Lu Jin's spatial scroll. As for the weapons, other than the 5 long swords of the 5 Chi Jing experts, Yan Chuan didn't care about the rest. After burying the Life League disciples, they left quickly with the corpses of the beasts. They found a big lake and washed the blood off their bodies. Then, they started to eat again. Hundreds of beasts were eaten in a few days. The biggest benefit of a large supply of beasts was the continuous growth of their profound qi. The group headed towards the capital of the Liang Kingdom. A month later, they arrived at the outskirts of Liang Kingdom. Many of the soldiers had a lot of scars on their bodies. However, none of them complained. In the past month, everyone's combat power had increased by a lot. There were no signs of beasts attacking Liang Kingdom. However, there were cultivators flying in and out from time to time. Apparently, this place had become a temporary camp for cultivators. Let's rest for a while in the city. We'll continue after we recuperate. Yan Chuan said. Yes. Everyone nodded. Yan Chuan led the army towards the city. The Genie army were carrying a lot of beast skins. They were obviously from the celestial sect. The guards at the city gate didn't dare to stop them. The army slowly entered the city. At this moment, there was a scholarly man holding a feather fan on the city gate tower. He revealed a look of surprise. The man was none other than Mr. Monroe. Yan Chuan? Mr. Monroe asked curiously. There were several people standing behind Mr. Monroe. What's wrong? Does Mr. Monroe know these people? Someone asked curiously. An acquaintance. Mr. Monroe nodded. The one with the sword on his back. But he's only at the second level of the profound realm. A person beside him asked curiously. Does my acquaintance have to have a high cultivation level? Mr. Monroe laughed as he waved his feather fan. Oh. Is there something special about that person? Shaking his head gently, Mr. Monroe took a deep breath and said, I shouldn't bother him, but the Holy Sun asked me to do something for him, so I'll do my best. Don't bother him. I'll go see him myself after he settles down. See someone at the profound realm? Mr. Monroe, is this person worthy of your effort? A person beside him asked curiously. His handwriting is better than mine. Do you think he's worthy? Mr. Monroe laughed. Impossible. Handwriting? He's only at the second level of the profound realm. How can his handwriting be compared to yours? Mr. Monroe smiled and didn't explain further. The few of them were astonished. Mr. Monroe, on the other hand, looked towards the city while waving his feather fan. Chapter 262. Liangjing. Yan Chuan led the army and slowly entered the city. Wherever they went, the people would make way for them. Even the cultivators who stayed behind looked at the 3,000 people in surprise. After all, the equipment of this group of people was too strange. It was almost the same. Such a unified group was rare in the major sections. Yan Chuan was about to send someone to inquire about the situation in the city when he suddenly saw a familiar face. Xiao. A figure instantly appeared in front of Yan Chuan. It was the three swordsmen of the Dai sect. Wow, so many demonic beast hides. The three swordsmen looked at the beast hides carried by the soldiers in surprise. Xiao San, why are you here? Yan Chuan asked curiously. Xiao San. The three swordsmen's face fell. Only then did he remember that Yan Chuan was his senior. Uncle Master, actually we have been here for a few days. We have been waiting for you. The three swordsmen said helplessly. Oh. The seven of us and Zhujian Sheng are here. Our master asked us to protect you and increase the sect's merit points. We guessed that it was you guys who did it, but we didn't know where you were. In the end, we decided to wait for you in Liangjing. Sure enough, you really came. The three swordsmen said proudly. Protect me. Alright, thanks a lot. Yan Chuan smiled faintly. It's my duty. Let's go. We have already picked a good place. Liangjing's flat mountain building. The terrain there is very high and you can overlook the entire city. The three swordsmen laughed. Alright. Oh right, can you get rid of these beast hides? Yan Chuan asked. Leave it to me. A large number of cultivators have gathered in Liangjing this time. I know some people from Carefree City who collect all kinds of materials. The three swordsmen patted his chest and said. That would be great. Yan Chuan nodded. Under the guidance of the three swordsmen, the group walked to the west of Liangjing and arrived at a huge restaurant. Behind the restaurant was a big lake. The 3,000 soldiers washed themselves and rested for the time being. After Yan Chuan took a bath and changed his clothes, he was also led to the restaurant. The restaurant was very spacious, and the people living inside were all high officials and nobles. There were even some cultivators sitting inside. Yan Chuan and his group sat near a window. Lu Jin stood behind Yan Chuan. The 7 swordsmen and Zhu Jiansheng were also sitting at the table. The dining tables were separated by screens. Yan Chuan sipped his tea and looked at the entire Liangjing outside the window. There was a group of palaces in the north and south of Liangjing, and all of them were incomparably majestic. Which side is the imperial palace? Yan Chuan asked curiously. Martial uncle, you don't know this, but Liang capital's terrain is extremely unique. Because it's close to the Demon Wind mountain range, many cultivators will stop here. Just like our flat mountain pavilion, it's actually specially built for cultivators. A temporary place to stay. The 3 swordsmen said immediately. Yan Chuan nodded. Because cultivators stop here, Liangjing is also quite prosperous. The one in the north is the Liang Kingdom's imperial palace, and the one in the south is called the Immortal Palace. It's a place for some important cultivators to stay. It was specially built by the Liang Kingdom's emperor to please the cultivators. It's as majestic as the imperial palace. The 3 swordsmen explained. Are all the dynasties in the world trying to please the sects? Yan Chuan frowned. Of course. Dynasties can't collect merits. Other than having a lot of mortals, what else can they do? The 4 swordsmen nodded. Yan Chuan nodded and said no more. However, he was getting more and more confused. Right, martial uncle, you might not know, but something big has happened in the Demon Wind mountain range. At this moment, a large number of disciples from various sects have gathered in Liangjing. They are all going to enter the Demon Wind mountain range. The 3 swordsmen said with envy. Chapter 263. Oh. Why? It's a heaven-level cultivation technique. The most powerful technique in the Dahe sect is only of the earth level. A heaven-level cultivation technique can even become the treasure of a middle-level sect. Many people have risked their lives to search for it. The 3 swordsmen said. Heaven-level cultivation technique? Then why are there still so many people in Liangjing? Because the holy sun of the Dazhao holy ground is here. Many cultivators responded to the holy sun's summons. As long as you help the holy sun find the heaven-level cultivation technique, the holy sun will give you 10 earth-level cultivation techniques. Think about it. How can a heaven-level cultivation technique be so easy to get? However, as long as you follow the holy sun and find some information, you can get the earth-level cultivation technique. Who wouldn't want it? The 3 swordsmen said. All the cultivators in the city follow the orders of the holy sun. Yan Chuan said in a deep voice. The holy sun is amazing. The Guyu holy sun of the Dazhao holy ground is rumored to have become an emptiness realm expert 100 years ago. He has many powerful subordinates and countless talents. The 3 swordsmen explained. Oh right, the Guyu holy sun is now living in the Immortal Palace. Zhu Jiansheng said. While they were talking, the waiter of the hotel walked over. Sorry to disturb you. May I know which one of you is Yan Chuan? The waiter asked respectfully. What's the matter? Yan Chuan asked in confusion. Someone claims to be your friend and wants to see you. The waiter said respectfully. Oh. Who is it? Yan Chuan was slightly confused. Prince Yan, long time no see. A bright voice sounded. When Ruo, dressed in white, walked out from behind the waiter with a feather fan in her hand. Mr. Monroe. Zhu Jiansheng and the others were surprised. When Ruo nodded at the crowd. Then, she turned to look at Yan Chuan. Oh, it's Mr. Monroe. Excuse me for not going out to meet you. Please come in. Yan Chuan stood up and greeted him. When Ruo nodded and walked over. Everyone, I would like to speak to Yan Chuan alone. Is it possible? When Ruo looked at Zhu Sheng and the others and said, "No problem, I'll sit at the table next to you." Everyone said politely. At the same time, they all looked at Wen Ruo in surprise. They didn't expect him to come here. Yan Chuan frowned slightly, but didn't say anything. "Have a seat," Yan Chuan said. Wen Ruo nodded and sat down. Lu Jin poured tea for them. "It seems that Mr. Monroe didn't come here to catch up with me," Yan Chuan said with a smile as he sipped his tea. "We're here to catch up, and we also have something to discuss," Wen Ruo said naturally. "It's good to catch up. Mr. Monroe is still as handsome as ever," Yan Chuan said with a smile. Mr. Monroe smiled bitterly and said, "Prince Yan, you're too kind. Last time, you were with the saint. This time, you're with the Holy Sun. Mr. Monroe seems to be very popular in the Dazhao Holy Ground," Yan Chuan said with a smile. "You're busy. Prince Yan, don't you want to know about the saint?" Mr. Monroe said with a smile. She. How is she now?" Yan Chuan asked with a serious face. "It's a perfect battle. She has handed the Million Wonders demonic lotus to Mohina Dojin. Moreover, her cultivation is about to break through. When we came out, she was in seclusion. Qing Long and the others were guarding her," Mr. Monroe said. "Breakthrough? Her cultivation is indeed fast." Yan Chuan nodded his head. "Hee, it seems that I've underestimated you," Mr. Monroe said with a strange smile. "Oh. Meng Rongrong is my sister. You made her very angry last time," Mr. Monroe said with a smile. Chapter 264. Your sister. "So, you're the eldest son of the Jilu Academy?" Yan Chuan was slightly surprised. Mr. Monroe smiled bitterly and shook his head. "It's all in the past. Let's not talk about it." "Okay." Yan Chuan nodded and stopped talking about it. "I've seen your wisdom and knowledge in the feng shui formation. I'd like to ask for your help this time," Mr. Monroe said after some thought. "Help?" "Guyu Holy Sun has brought a group of powerhouses from the Dazhao Holy Ground and even recruited a large number of powerhouses from the surrounding sections. He's going to enter the Devilish Wind Mountains with a promise of great benefits. I'd like to invite you along," Mr. Monroe said directly. "Promise of great benefits?" Yan Chuan asked curiously. "You should have heard that Guyu Holy Sun promised 10 Earth-level techniques for a Heaven-level technique," Mr. Monroe said. Yan Chuan took a sip of tea and smiled. "Heaven-level techniques? Is that so? Why? You don't believe me?" Mr. Monroe smiled. "How do you expect me to believe you? Thousands of monsters are fleeing. Is this the sign of a heaven-level technique? This is the territory of the demonic beasts. Those demonic beasts are fleeing in all directions in fear. What do you think it is?" Yan Chuan laughed. Mr. Monroe's face stiffened, then he smiled bitterly. "I knew I couldn't hide it from you. Something big must have happened in the Devilish Wind Mountains. I'm sure of it. It's extremely dangerous, so dangerous that some monsters don't dare to stay there. Tell me, why would I, an essence state cultivator, go to such a dangerous place with you? If there are benefits, I won't get them. If there's a disaster, I'll be the first to suffer. Am I right?" Yan Chuan smiled. Mr. Monroe smiled bitterly and nodded. "I was too rash. I should be the one thanking you. At the very least, you didn't let Guyu Holy Sun recruit me," Yan Chuan said with a smile. Mr. Monroe sighed and shook his head. "Actually, even now, I don't know what's inside." "Oh. Guyu Holy Sun still doesn't trust me." Mr. Monroe smiled bitterly. Yan Chuan looked at Mr. Monroe in surprise. "Ha! Mr. Monroe laughed casually. He picked up his teacup and continued to drink his tea. Yan Chuan also picked up his teacup and drank his tea as he looked at the vast Liangjing. Yan Chuan's eyes suddenly narrowed. Two figures suddenly appeared on the roof of the largest palace in the Liangjing Imperial Palace. Of the two figures, one wore a green robe, had a prominent forehead bone, and stood with his hands behind his back. His face was pale green, and he was handsome and arrogant. Although he did not release any aura, his entire person gave people a feeling that he was one with heaven and earth. He stood proudly in the wind, and his eyes were full of loftiness. Yan Chuan had seen many people. Although he only saw his appearance, he could tell at a glance that this person was not an ordinary person. Since he woke up in this life, this person had the most powerful aura. Beside him was a yellow-haired man. The man sat cross-legged with a guqin on his knees. Yao Tiansheng. Mr. Monroe's expression changed. Yao Tiansheng. Who is he? Yan Chuan asked immediately. He's not a human. He's a demon. In the past, he wiped out a middle-level sect by himself. He's a powerful demon from the northern demon tribe. He fought with Guyu Holy Sun a few times. Although they were evenly matched, Yao Tiansheng's aura was getting stronger and stronger. Guyu Holy Sun was gradually unable to suppress him. Now he's here again. Something's going to happen. I'm going back. We'll meet again if fate wills it. Mr. Monroe's expression changed. He flew out of the flat mountain inn. Yao Tiansheng. Yan Chuan looked curiously at the arrogant green-robed demon. Chapter 265. I will climb to the top and look down on all the other mountains. Yao Tiansheng stood on top of the Forbidden City as he stared coldly in the direction of the Immortal Palace in the south. King Spider. Yao Tiansheng smiled faintly. The yellow-haired man sitting cross-legged at the side immediately nodded and said, "Yes, my lord." As he spoke, he gently placed his hands on the guqin, as if he was about to play it. Flat Mountain Inn. After Mr. Monroe left, Zhu Jiansheng and the others surrounded them again. 8 fingers. Zhu Jiansheng looked in surprise at the yellow-haired man playing the zither in the distance. He's a spider demon. Yan Chuan said in a deep voice. Spider demon. Great demon. A virtual realm great demon. Zhu Jiansheng's expression immediately changed. The emptiness realm. That's right, it was the emptiness realm. However, Yan Chuan valued Yao Tiansheng more. Judging from the spider demon's attitude, it seemed like it was completely subservient to Yao Tiansheng. Wang Zhu stroked his guqin. He waved his hands outwards. The rapid sound of the zither immediately rang out. Clink clink clink. The sound of needles piercing suddenly resounded throughout the entire Liangjing. Ah! My ears! Ah, I can't hear you. Countless commoners suddenly rolled on the ground in pain. Suddenly, the roof of the Immortal Palace exploded. Hong! A large number of practitioners flew into the sky from all directions of the Celestial Palace. They all looked at the top of the Forbidden City in surprise. Who would have thought that someone would dare to provoke the Holy Sun? This is a sound technique. Zhu Jiansheng exclaimed in surprise. In the direction of the Celestial Palace, about 200 cultivators flew into the sky. They all pulled out their long swords, and their faces were gloomy. And at the top of the most majestic palace of the Immortal Palace, 10 people slowly walked up. 7 of them were sitting cross-legged with a guqin placed on their knees. There were 3 people in the center. The leader was dressed in a golden robe and wore a crane-shaped golden crown on his head. His eyes were cold as if he was looking down on the world. The man's aura was equally powerful. The 2 people behind him were dressed in purple, as if they were his subordinates. Yao Tiansheng. You still dare to come? The man with the golden crown said in a deep voice. At the top of the forbidden city, Yao Tianshang's face flashed with arrogance as he said, "Why wouldn't I dare to come? Gu Yu, I'm here to give you merit this time." "Merit?" Gu Yu Holy Sun said coldly. "Of course. Spider King, let's begin." Yao Tianshang said solemnly. "Yes." King Spider nodded with an evil smile. Cling, 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 cling. His hands quickly strummed the guqin. Suddenly, a large amount of guqin music radiated in all directions. The sounds of the guqin were like overlapping white waves. They were faintly discernible in the void as they swept toward the Immortal Palace. Rumble. Layers of huge waves washed across the sky. Wherever the huge waves passed, Liangjing was hit by an unprecedented storm. Under the sound of the zither, countless buildings collapsed rapidly. "Ah! My head hurts. My head hurts." Under the sound of the zither, it was as if they could not take it anymore. All of the commoners were rolling on the ground. 7 guqin attendants. Gu Yu Holy Sun said in a deep voice. "Yes." The 7 guqin masters sitting at the side quickly strummed their guqin. Cling, cling, cling. Cling, cling, cling. The 7 of them played their guqin at the same time. In an instant, the sound of the 7 guqin masters formed tangible sound waves that crashed towards King Spider's guqin waves. Hong. Chapter 266. When the 2 guqin waves collided, there was a loud crash. Where the guqin waves intersected, a huge tornado was formed. The powerful impact swept across the entire Liang capital and spread in all directions. Boom! All the houses in Yan capital collapsed. Even the flat mountain restaurant that Yan Chuan was in was shaking and many of the screens inside fell down. Many customers ran out of the restaurant in fear. 7 guqin servants, that's all you got? Ha, let me teach you what a real guqin is. Wang Zhu said with an evil smile. Dong, 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 dong. As soon as the sound changed, Wang Zhu's guqin waves increased by more than 10 times. Wave after wave rushed out and suppressed the music of the 7 guqin servants. At the same time, rays of light appeared in Wang Zhu's guqin waves. Hum. 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 Among the zither waves, long sabers that were abnormally bright suddenly appeared. There were about 1,000,000 sabers in total. The sabers immediately pointed towards the divine palace. Go, the waves are surging. Ha ha ha. Wang Zhu laughed. Boom. The millions of long sabers formed by the guqin waves suddenly turned into a huge storm of sabers and swept towards the opposite side. Wherever the storm of sabers passed, the sound was ear-piercing again. Hum. Countless people lost their sight. Ordinary people covered their heads and rolled on the ground. Even the cultivators who flew into the sky at the beginning vomited blood and fell to the ground. Ding ding. The sound of guqin spread in all directions and covered the entire Liang capital. Ah! The painful cries of the embroidered uniform army came from the backyard where Yan Chuan was. The 3,000 embroidered uniform army also felt their ears explode. Ah! My ears are so piercing. The 3 swordsmen also exclaimed. I can't cover it. I can still hear it if I cover my ears. Zhijiansheng said with a pale face. Wang, Wang. Lu Jin covered her ears in pain. It's useless. The sound of guqin doesn't need to go through the ears. It can enter the brain. Yan Chuan said. King, the old slave is dying. Lu Jin fell to the ground in pain. Akala seal, heart seal. Yan Chuan shouted. Yes. Lu Jin painfully quickly formed the Akala seal. While forming the seal, Lu Jin chanted an incantation. Her whole body trembled, and bean-sized beads of sweat fell from her face. However, after forming the Akala seal, Lu Jin immediately felt better. At least, she wasn't in as much pain as before. Why, Your Majesty? Huo Guang led 3,000 members of the embroidered uniform army to the front of the flat mountain inn. Akala seal, heart seal. Yan Chuan ordered. Yes. Huo Guang and the 3,000 members of the embroidered uniform army quickly formed hand seals. Akala suppressed the demonic sound from entering their ears. Ah! Help! My ears! In Liangjing, not only the common people, but countless cultivators were also covering their ears in pain. Millions of Guqin blades swept across Yanjing and rushed towards the heavenly palace. The 7 Guqin attendants were all shocked. They played the Guqin even faster. Virum. Under the Guqin music, the 7 of them formed a huge hemispherical shield in front of the heavenly palace. Rumble. The Guqin blades slashed on the hemispherical shield. A deafening sound of impact pierced the 9 heavens and suppressed everything. Chapter 267. The sound waves crashed into each other. The common people were dying, the Essence Realm cultivators were rolling on the ground in dissatisfaction, and the Qi Realm cultivators were clutching their heads in pain, trying to escape. But where could they go now? The ground was shaking. If they tried to escape, they would be hit by more sound waves, and the sky would be filled with cultivators who fell to the ground, vomiting blood. Pft! Pft! The 7 zither attendants all vomited blood on their gyukins. They couldn't hold on any longer. Ha ha ha, I have stronger ones here. How can you call yourself the 7 zither attendants? Wang Zhu laughed arrogantly. At this moment, Mr. Monroe arrived at the heavenly palace. Mr. Monroe, play the Guqin. Guyu shouted. Guyu Holy Sun wasn't afraid of the Guqin, but it was a battle between their subordinates. Guyu Holy Sun had to keep an eye on Yao Tianshang, so he couldn't make a move. Holy Sun, I'm not good at gyukins. I'll try my best. Mr. Monroe smiled bitterly. As he spoke, Mr. Monroe took out a Guqin and sat down cross-legged. Dong 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 dong. As Mr. Monroe played, the 7 zither attendants seemed to have been helped by the gods. They were at a disadvantage. As soon as Wen Ruo started to play her zither, waves of zither music rushed out and strengthened the protective shield. But they could only defend. Ah! Zhijiansheng and the others cried out in pain. Just like Huo Guang, use the Akalanatha seal. Yan Chuan instructed. Okay. The 7 swordsmen and Zhijiansheng quickly imitated Huo Guang and used the Akalanatha seal. Yan Chuan was able to resist all the demonic sounds because of his strong will as an emperor in his previous life. The ground around the flat mountain building was shaking, but the building was strangely becoming more and more stable. Yan Chuan looked around in surprise. The flat mountain building was surrounded by cultivators who were rolling on the ground. However, there was one exception. The screens inside the flat mountain building had all collapsed. Yan Chuan saw a black-robed man sitting peacefully by a window not far away. Azure clouds were embroidered on his black robes, making him look extremely mysterious. The man sat by the window with a glass of wine in his hand. As he drank, he admired the battle between the 2 sides. At the feet of the black-robed man, Yan Chuan saw a round wheel. The image of the 8 trigrams appeared around the wheel. The wheel seemed to have appeared out of thin air as it spun slowly. The entire flat mountain inn became more and more stable. Feng Shui Master. Yan Chuan's eyes lit up. Stepping on the ground to form a wheel. This was no ordinary Feng Shui Master. With Yan Chuan's keen eyes, he could tell at a glance that this person was calm and powerful. Taking a deep breath, Yan Chuan stepped forward. I am Yan Chuan. May I know your name? Yan Chuan asked solemnly. The black-robed man was completely wrapped in the black robes. His face could not be seen clearly, but he continued drinking his wine. I am Yan Chuan. May I know your name? Yan Chuan asked solemnly. At this moment, the black-robed man glanced at Yan Chuan. However, the brim of his hat was pitch black, like an abyss. Yan Chuan could not see his face clearly. Essence Realm? The black-robed man's voice was slightly hoarse. I am Yan Chuan. May I know your name? Yan Chuan asked again with a smile. This is the Spider King's 8 Sky Demon Notes. If you can last until the end, I will tell you, the black-robed man said with a hoarse voice. Do you know the Spider King? Yan Chuan asked curiously. No, but I have seen him use this guqin to kill an Emptiness Realm expert. The Spider King was originally a formidable person. I did not expect him to submit to Yao Tianshang, the black-robed man said in a deep voice. Sir, may I sit down and have a drink? Yan Chuan asked with a smile. You can resist the demonic notes with your essence realm cultivation. You are quite something. Sit down, the black-robed man said calmly.